Chapter 58:22. Chapter 58:22. The fastest update and the strongest upgrade system. The prehistoric world is in complete turmoil and darkness has fallen. The power to dominate ruins and annihilation comes to redefine the survival of the prehistoric world. The earth is devastated, with signs of collapse and destruction everywhere, and all living creatures are like ants. This is the calamity of heaven and earth. Ordinary creatures cannot withstand the impact of the torrent at all. Death is the only thing waiting for them. Dashang is still resisting, but the corpses of those who died in battle were already on the city wall and the mountain of corpses, and the sea of blood became the only color of the world, which was desolate to the eye. Netherworld Sea of Blood. Qingying was also fighting hard, and the combat power in the entire Netherworld Blood Sea was constantly decreasing. Endless weird creatures crawled out of the Netherworld Blood Sea, killing them endlessly. Moreover, ordinary power cannot do anything about these strange things. Only the power of the Apocalypse realm can destroy them. In just a few days, the Netherworld Blood Sea was already unable to withstand it, and as time went by, the power of these existences would become stronger and stronger. In the end, even the existences of the Apocalypse realm could not stop them, and they fell under this power. This is the calamity of destruction, which will destroy everything, and no one can escape except the only realm. Master's wife, there is no result if we continue fighting like this. Let's go. The prehistoric world cannot be saved. Tianxin came to Qingying. Qingying glanced at the Netherworld Blood Sea, looked at the floating corpses floating in the Blood Sea, and sighed. Is Longfei still there? There was a mist in her eyes. A deep sense of powerlessness emerged in my heart, but she just wanted to use fighting to numb her nerves. It seems that only in such an environment can I forget the fact that Longfei has disappeared. She is no ordinary person. At this time, she was infinitely close to the only realm. Naturally, it can be felt that there is no longer the breath of Longfei in this world. She dreamed countless times hoping that Longfei would appear by her side. Unfortunately, what awaited was disaster, and she also knew that Longfei's disappearance was inextricably related to the emergence of this disaster. It was Longfei's disappearance that led to the emergence of this power. Tianxin fell silent. She knew even more than Qingying. Qingying didn't know that there was the shadow of the sea behind it, but she knew it. She didn't know what Dahai was planning behind the scenes, but she was certain that it was definitely related to the disaster that befell heaven and earth today. Master, don't worry. Master will definitely come back. Qingying said through gritted teeth. Qingying sighed and said nothing more. Don't worry. Longfei has escaped from the darkness and is on his way back. At this moment, a voice suddenly appeared behind the two of them. The two of them turned around instantly, and their expressions changed after seeing this figure. You... Qingying frowned and said, unable to believe that he could still see the person in front of him. Yes, this is exactly Ying. No need to be surprised. I was also rescued by Dahai. Moreover, I also learned from Dahai that Longfei is coming back soon. Ying said, and then told Qingying all about Dahai's plans. So, what you mean is that all of us have to die once before we can hope to change the coming of the apocalypse? Qingying asked in a deep voice. Yes. Ying nodded. However, the death in Daheku should only be temporary. This catastrophe is not an apocalyptic catastrophe, and it will not wipe out people like you and me. Ying continued. Ying didn't hide anything from Qingying and told Dahai's plan. There was a feeling of rejection in Qingying's eyes. So, now it's a game against Longfei? She frowned. Sacrificing all the creatures in the prehistoric world was just to let Longfei witness a destruction. Is it really worth it? Wen nodded. That's ridiculous. So, in this plan, is it to let Long Fei see everyone dead to trigger his other power, to make him the cause of the disaster, and induce the apocalypse? Qing Ying's eyes were filled with mockery. Crazy! So many people were sacrificed just to confirm an unfounded guess. It's irreversible. The sea is also following the trend. He has been existing in this era to destroy the apocalypse tribulation. Ing said slowly. He knew that this result was not very acceptable to Qing Ying, but there is no way, no matter whether you think about it or not, it is now irreversible. Especially now, Long Fei is about to return, and they must prepare this opportunity for Long Fei. Only in this way can Long Fei see his true self. And in Dahai's mouth, this is the key to stopping the apocalypse. In other words, Long Fei is the point of the apocalypse. The explosion or annihilation is all on Long Fei. Qing Ying sneered. No matter how many explanations they give, they can't cover up the fact that they plotted against Long Fei. But now in this situation, she has no other choice. Now, the prehistoric world is on the verge of destruction. Under the impact of the torrent of disasters, any resistance is unnecessary. Even in her current state, she was unable to reverse it. It was a drop in the bucket and couldn't change anything at all. I won't cooperate with you. If you really have the means, just kill me. Perhaps this will make Long Fei more moved, and you will also get the answer you want. Qing Ying said, raising his eyes. And then a moment later the sword's light reappeared, and he shot directly into the void. Ing couldn't help but sigh. Why bother? He felt extremely helpless about Qing Ying's choice. You have underestimated Master's wife's feelings for Master. After waiting for dozens of epochs, it is simply impossible for you to let her betray Master. At this time, Tianxin said, she knew more about this matter than Qing Ying. Although she didn't want to, she knew that this matter was beyond her ability to change. The only realm is just a chess piece. Even Long Fei is on the chessboard. The real game is only the sea and an invisible and intangible apocalypse. Ing shook his head and said nothing more. The prehistoric world is hundreds of millions of miles away. Long Fei was so anxious that he increased his speed to the extreme, but for some reason, he always felt that there was an inexplicable force restraining him, which he could not disintegrate even with his strength. If it were before, the logic of space would be just a cloud in front of him. With this distance in front of him, he could reach it in a moment. But this time, it didn't work. There is a force in the dark that is blocking him. Mr. Da also noticed the clues and said softly, "It feels wrong here. It seems that someone has left some kind of traces, and you can only walk along these traces." Long Fei nodded. "I feel it too. This power is very strange, and the cultivation level should be above mine." Long Fei said. At this time, a figure also appeared in his mind. That's the sea. As far as he knew, the only person whose cultivation level was higher than his own was the sea. Moreover, although it was Dahai's handiwork that brought him step by step to where he is today, Dahai was also plotting against him. Mr. Da's face was also extremely shocked, but he soon became relieved, because he also thought of the sea and the person he had seen before. If it were the sea, it would not be surprising to have such means. Chapter 58:23. Chapter 58:23, the fastest update and the strongest upgrade system. Mr. Da didn't say this, especially after seeing Long Fei's face. He didn't dare to say anything. After he came out of the false world, he had more feelings. Therefore, I want to know the mystery behind all this. Long Fei was definitely the strongest he had ever seen, but he was still being plotted against him, which made him feel chills running down his spine. Soon, the two figures shuttled back and forth. The stars are disillusioned, and there is no concept of time. But this section of the road is extremely long, as if there is no end. Long Fei's face became increasingly ugly, and all the stars on the road were shattered by his punch. Even towards the end, he became irritable. The road to the galaxy was trampled by him. Almost every step he took, the void behind him collapsed into ruins and was beyond recovery. Mr. De followed Long Fei. The light in his eyes kept flashing, as if he had discovered something extraordinary. It wasn't until Long Fei crushed a planet with his wave of his hand that he couldn't hold back anymore, and said directly, "Long Fei." Long Fei paused and slowly turned his head. But just at this glance, Mr. Da's pupils suddenly shrank, and he took a breath of cold air. This pair of eyes can no longer see any trace of humanity, only indifference and emptiness, and even a hint of destruction. But fortunately, he seemed to still retain his rationality and was not completely immersed. Otherwise, he would not have heard his greeting. "Long Fei, please wake up. I don't know what the scheming people want, but if you continue to be so violent, there is only one result waiting for you, and that is to become the source of destruction. Don't forget, you have another identity called Jane. I couldn't see it at first, but now you have more and more shadows like this." Mr. Big looked solemn. In the place where the data originated, he could see through many things and was respected as Mr. Great, possessing the ability of a prophet. Now, in this real world, he is just as wise. When he watched Long Fei lose his humanity little by little, he felt that there seemed to be a force guiding Long Fei to transform in that direction. Although now Long Fei is only wreaking havoc on the galaxy and even destroying only deserted planets. But this is a process in which quantitative changes lead to qualitative changes. As time goes by, his humanity will gradually disappear, and by then, there will be no difference between waste and life in his eyes. And at that time, maybe it was the time when he transformed into the cause of the calamity. Therefore, he can only speak to stop it now. Long Fei didn't speak, but his brows were furrowed. Even his breathing became more and more rapid. For a long time, he took a deep look at Mr. Da. A touch of sarcasm appeared on the corner of his mouth, and said calmly, "A body of variables." Mr. Da suddenly changed his expression. Long Fei was still Long Fei, always in front of him. But he was sure that Long Fei at this time was no longer the one he knew. But before he could speak, Long Fei's expression suddenly changed in front of him. But immediately, Long Fei narrowed his eyes. Looking at the destroyed planet in front of him, he whispered, "Is this all my doing?" There was some surprise in Long Fei's voice, but more of it was horror. He had such a memory, that's why he asked. But those memories were extremely unfamiliar, as if someone had forced them on him. "Long Fei, I feel that something is wrong with your current state. Moreover, I just met you as the cause of robbery. Although it was only for a moment, I am sure that in that state you were the cause of robbery." Mr. De said, with deep eyes. Long Fei fell silent and said nothing for a long time. "If you continue like this, I'm afraid you won't be able to reach that world, and you will lose your mind. Now, I even doubt whether you are the source of the apocalypse tribulation." Mr. De continued. Long Fei's face was heavy. This was not the first time. He had been involved in the ending land before, and this was how he fought his way out. It was because of this that the system almost broke the table with him. "I just didn't expect that I would be in this state again now. Moreover, it is unconscious, even more violently this time. In the land of the end, all that was destroyed were the fallen stars, but along the way, countless stars collapsed, including many that had given birth to living beings." "System, what did you find?" After silence, Long Fei asked, "Your strength is constantly increasing, and every time you destroy the stars, your strength will be significantly improved. Now you are obviously close to reaching the level of the only one. The system responded. This time, he did not confront Long Fei. It was obvious that he also sensed something was wrong. Long Fei's previous state was not normal at all, as if he was controlled by some kind of force. He had doubts, thinking that it was Long Fei's memory of being the cause of the disaster that had revived. But in the final analysis, this was not the Long Fei he knew at all. If Long Fei is abandoned just because of speculation, then his system is too unqualified. When Long Fei heard this, his eyes widened. No excitement. If it had been in the past, Long Fei might have said something, and then others would have been fine. But now, this kind of power makes Long Fei feel scared. The stronger the power, the harder it became for him to control that power, and he even felt a sense of fear. This emotion has not appeared for many years, but now it continues to wreak havoc in the consciousness. He is afraid that one day he will become insensitive, and then he will not care about any common people or creatures. Even facing his own woman, his own brothers, and his own family members, he will ignore them. The result, just thinking about it, made him find it unacceptable. System. Do you think there is a possibility to set up a mission and use the power of the system to suppress that power? Long Fei asked. Nothing can be done. That kind of power could invade, silently, making Long Fei feel his scalp numb, and he could only focus on the system. The system fell silent as expected, and responded after a while, "You think too highly of me. The system can no longer keep up with you. This is no longer a high-end round, but a decisive round. I am not qualified to participate." The system gave in decisively. This kind of power, even if it is hidden deep in Long Fei's soul, makes him feel scared. What kind of designated tasks are there to target this kind of power? Don't even think about it. Long Fei sighed. Although I had known this result for a long time, I still felt a little disappointed. Ding! Players can ask this old man. Didn't he say that he is a variable? Maybe he has some power to handle it. Suddenly, the system made a sound again. Long Fei's eyes lit up. Yes, the system is not working because the level of the system is here, and he is no longer qualified to participate in the only situation. But Mr. De is different. He has the name of a prophet, and he is also one of the 4 kinds of existence between heaven and earth. There may not be anything he can do. With a thought, Long Fei instantly raised his head and looked at Mr. De. "What do you want to do?" Mr. De was excited and looked at Long Fei warily. Chapter 58:24. Chapter 58:24. Outside the wild world. The figure of Dahai stood in the void, watching the world in front of him filled with layers of calamity, his eyes indifferent. Soon, he looked towards the end of the void. It seems that the power in his body has revived again. Dahai murmured, and his face became a little solemn. Long Fei, you must resist. If you really become the Lord of Tribulation, everything I have done will be in vain. Dahai sighed, showing a rare expression of weakness. In the prehistoric world, the real chaos is coming. The power of destruction enveloped the world, and the light of disaster shone in every corner of the prehistoric world. Under this power, countless creatures transformed into puppets that only knew destruction and destruction. In turn, they picked up the butcher's knife and killed more creatures in the wild world. Chao Gu. This seems to be the only pure land for human beings. Only within 3,000 miles here is peace maintained. But behind this calmness is the result of countless battles. Upstairs and star-reaching, Xian was covered in blood. He no longer knew how many times he had killed. This time, he had to survive with a broken arm, dragging one arm and walking back from the land of destruction. I still can't bear it anymore. Xian smiled, lightly. Actually, you don't have to resist from beginning to end. This is the inevitable way to prevent the apocalypse. Even this prehistoric world was created by the sea on its own. Everything here exists to cope with the disaster. But you're so stupid that you actually want to risk your life. A voice said beside him, with a bit of disdain. This voice was naturally that of Long Batian. The reason why Long Batian stayed here was naturally because he was threatened by DXIN. There was no way DXIN and Long Fei were blood relatives after all. If he really died here, Long Fei would go crazy. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but sigh. Now Long Fei is too good at fighting, and he can no longer beat him. The sea can be unafraid, but he can't. Long Fei can't defeat the sea, so how can he defeat him? Therefore, even if you don't want to, you still have to endure it. I don't want to risk my life. I just want to prove to him that there are no cowards in our Long family. DXIN said. At this point, DXIN laughed and looked at Long Batian. Speaking of which, your surname is Long. Why are you so cowardly? Long Batian's eyes widened, and a cold light appeared in his eyes. Coward? When I was running the world, you and I were just like an ant in my eyes. Long Batian's breath was cold. The entire star-reaching tower was condensed with a layer of frost due to the change in his aura. But DXIN didn't care at all. Okay, stop pretending. You don't dare to mess with me. Frankly speaking, from the very beginning, I became your pawn, forced to work, carrying DXIN's body. And following when my dad was in the ring, I was still a little excited. After all, I had been hearing about what my dad had done since I was a kid. Well, I couldn't wish for a chance to confront him. As for you saying that this is a world born in response to calamity, I have already seen it. The system you provided is indeed good, and it has greatly increased my cultivation. But this so-called human destiny is a bit nonsense, too illusory, Emperor Xen said softly, and then looked at the sky. That is the barrier formed by the condensed destiny of humanity. It is melting at a speed visible to the naked eye, as if it will collapse at any time. Long Batian's face was stunned. Is it useful for you to think about this now? Why don't you think about leaving? Everyone here may die once, but something will happen if you die. Long Batian said. DXIN shook his head. Since you know that I am Long Fei's descendant, you should know that I will never retreat. The reason why I tell you this is to remind you that you think I can see things. I can't see it. Long Batian's pupils widened, and he suddenly fell into silence. At this time, above the sea of blood, same gray, the boundless sea of blood disappeared and turned into a sea of gray. This is the color of destruction. There is no light in the world, only darkness and gloom. Stop fighting. It can't be stopped. This world was created in response to calamity, Ing said with a frown as he looked at Qingying and Tianqi, whose long skirts were stained with blood. Qingying turned around slowly, his eyes also stained with gray. Ing Jia? Who is Jia? Qingying said, with a sneer flashing in his eyes. From the beginning to the end, you have regarded Long Fei as the cause of the Jia. You think everything happened because of Long Fei, but you have all forgotten that he has been working all his life to prevent the apocalypse from coming. Qingying's voice was choked, and her eyes were stubborn. Ing opened his mouth slightly, but in the end he didn't say a word. If Long Fei were here, he would rather be broken than broken. If I retreat, it will be equivalent to admitting what you said, that he is the cause of the disaster. But here he never is. Qingying said, slowly stood up, and walked into the darkness alone, until the light of destruction drowned her figure. Brother, must the gentleman be right? Tianqi suddenly looked up at Tianqi and asked. Tianqi shook his head. I don't know. As he spoke, he looked at Tianqi and smiled at each other. At this moment, both of them had made their own decisions, and without any hesitation, they followed Qingying's figure directly into the gray area. Ing looked at their figures. His pupils narrowed slightly. In my mind, Everything that happened after being summoned by Long Fei began to appear in my mind in a loop. After a long moment, he smiled bitterly. It seems that even if it is transcendent from heaven and earth and laws, it is still transcendent from its nature. As he spoke, his eyes gradually became firm, and then he took a step forward and walked into the flooded tribulation light. Billions of miles away, in nothingness, Long Fei looked at Mr. De in front of him with burning eyes. Prophet, since you are a variable, one of the same beings in the mouth of the sea, and you can also sense the changes in my power, then you should have a way to control the awakening of another consciousness in my body, right? Long Fei said with a bit of longing in his eyes. He sees himself under another power within his body as another consciousness. That's not him, although there are inextricably linked reasons with him. Long Fei believes that it is not his true self. It's impossible. I can't do it. I can feel that you are extremely terrifying. Moreover, the most special existence in the world, creation, cause of disaster, variables, and death are also sequenced. My role is to when the cause of calamity arises, it guides, or the author creates some factors to change the outcome of annihilation, rather than changing the cause of the tribulation. So, what you said, I simply can't do. Mr. Big said. At this time, he regretted it. He saw this real world and came, but instead of conquering it, he was frightened. Especially when he saw Long Fei in the previous state, he was even more annoyed. If he had not walked out of the dat-woven world, he might not have to face all this. Chapter 58, 26. Chapter 58, 26. At this time, there is nothingness. The sea was walking in nothingness, and its footsteps suddenly stopped. Fuck, did he really guess it? But it's okay. I refuse to admit it, and there's nothing he can do about it. If you can't beat me, then join in. After all, I am also a victim. Dahai muttered to himself, then turned back and glanced at the world below. However, it's time. Now, the whole world is on the verge of destruction. If you don't come, who will suffer this disaster? As he spoke, Dahai waved his hand gently. At the same time, Long Fei was in the void. Long Fei's eyes suddenly focused, and he looked into the void. At this moment, he felt that the power that had been holding him back disappeared, and nothingness existed. What's wrong? Mr. De asked. Although Mr. De has lived for a long time, he has no cultivation, so he cannot sense the changes in the void. It's nothing. Some people can't wait. In that case, let's have a good chat, Long Fei said, and then his figure flickered, pulling Mr. Da and disappearing into the endless void in an instant. At this moment, the prehistoric world had completely turned into a mass of gray, just like the stars that Long Fei had seen in the land of Nirvana before, and he could no longer feel the breath of any life. And the stars that carry this world began to fall into silence, gradually sinking into the cold void, as if following a certain trajectory, teetering on the edge of collapse. Although this speed is very slow, it is obvious that as time goes by, the speed is constantly improving. This, here. Outside the void, Mr. De looked at the world in front of him, stammering and unable to speak a complete sentence. Long Fei's aura was changing. The terrifying aura and murderous intent enveloped the endless galaxy, and everything like grass and trees seemed to be no longer in his eyes. Calm down. Long Fei, I know you are in a hurry, but don't worry. What you see now is what the other party wants you to see, and it may not be as bad as you think. Mr. De quickly pulled the phone. Live in Long Fei. He had seen Long Fei in that state, and didn't want to see him again. But at this time, Long Fei's state was clearly on the verge of going berserk. If he couldn't stop him in time, he couldn't guarantee that Long Fei would still be him. But Long Fei didn't seem to hear anything, and just looked at the world in front of him with red eyes. At a certain moment, the expression on his face suddenly stiffened, and his eyes showed an indifference that ignored all sentient beings. But then he was filled with overwhelming anger. Mr. De seemed to sense something and quickly let go of Long Fei's hand and stepped aside. This, is he coming again? His voice was trembling, and although he was trying to stay calm as much as possible, he still felt fear involuntarily. He was sure that Long Fei was constantly switching between two states at this moment, which resulted in these two extreme emotional changes. But he couldn't stop it. All you can do is hide far away. Wait until they decide the winner before coming out. And his guess was indeed good. At this time, Long Fei sensed another existence, and it was even constantly attacking him, trying to replace him. What the are you? In the world where two consciousnesses intertwined, Long Fei asked. It was chaos, and there was only a door shrouded in chaos, standing in it. At this time, a figure stood at the door. Turn your back to Long Fei. Slowly, the figure turned around and faced Long Fei. Waste. The man spoke and uttered two words. Long Fei's eyebrows sank, and true fire burned in his eyes. Waste. Two words from a long time ago, not to mention that he broke the world, transcended the world, and was the only one in the world. Even the road behind him was pushed forward all the way. Who dares to call him a waste? But now, the voice was as sharp as a knife, hurting deeply in his heart. At the same time, the chaotic energy outside the figure gradually dissipated, revealing its true appearance. Exactly the same. This is completely Long Fei himself, but the aura was much more terrifying than Long Fei's, and he couldn't even find a suitable feeling to describe his feelings at this time. The only feeling is destruction. Good. This other self is filled with the power of destruction. I thought you could handle it by yourself, but I didn't expect that you would end up here. Since you can't do it well, don't do it. I'll help you handle the rest. The voice continued, and then coaxed Long. Come flying. Long Fei glared and snorted coldly. Then he punched the figure in front of him. However, an extremely terrifying scene occurred. This chaotic world seemed to be indestructible. Even though he punched out, no changes were caused. Not only that, even the chaotic energy filling the air in front of him has not dissipated. Don't waste your efforts. Don't say it's you. Even if the sea comes, it can't break this place. The other self said, and slowly came to Long Fei. Among the outside world, Mr. De stared at Long Fei closely. He didn't dare to take it lightly. As long as Long Fei showed anything wrong, he would definitely turn around and leave without any hesitation. If it were Long Fei or himself, then everything might turn around. But if someone else comes out, it's over. Guess who will come out? But at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared in his ear. Mr. De was stunned and turned around suddenly. He saw the sea standing next to him. Frowning, Mr. De still said, Are you really controlling everything behind the scenes? Dahai glanced at him. Don't say such nonsense. I also realized it later. And I am also a victim. Hey, so many years of hard work have been in vain. I always thought that I was just like you, a variable. So I did this. There were so many things, but I didn't expect that in the end they would all come to nothing in an instant. There was actually a pair of hands behind my back, and even I was deceived. Dahai looked regretful. Mr. De frowned and stared at the sea blankly. Why doesn't he believe this? Are you a victim too? Mr. De asked bravely. I can't believe this. Dahai nodded heavily and said with a sincere face, Yes, I am also a victim. Like you, I am also the one who was deceived. As he said this, Dahai still pretended to sigh helplessly. It's terrible. I'm so awesome. Yet I was tricked by someone. I really don't know how majestic and terrifying the person behind him is to tell such a big lie. Mr. Big was stunned. Upon hearing it, there is indeed nothing wrong with this. But he couldn't hear any jealousy in Daiko. It even always feels like Dahai is praising the person behind the scenes. Don't think about it. Now we are all grasshoppers on the same rope. Why not guess first? Is it Long Fei who comes out, or is he in existence under another kind of power? Dahai said, and their eyes fell on Long Fei again. Fly on. Chapter 58, 27. Chapter 58, 27. At this point, they can only wait. Even the sea, which can understand creation and penetrate the foundation of heaven and earth, cannot interfere with Long Fei in this state at this time. At this time, in chaos. The figures of the two Long Fei were also intertwined. The sky and the earth roared, and there was chaos and chaos. This is an inevitable result. One wants to replace Long Fei, and the other wants to obliterate the other and control his true self. Therefore, when they meet, the two will fight to the death. Fortunately, this world is their inner world with infinite mysteries and endless changes. It is enough to withstand their power, and there is no possibility of being penetrated. If it were in reality, I am afraid that the heaven and earth would have been penetrated long ago and ceased to exist. Boom, boom, boom. The two methods are exactly the same. The power of the system is now completely unable to keep up with the rhythm. The two of them also use the only method with great tacit understanding, the fist of destruction and the sword of annihilation, one after another. The entire sea of chaos was shaken up and down, constantly breaking and reorganizing in cycles. But both of them were extremely determined. They wanted to kill each other from the beginning, and they never thought about stopping. They would fight until death. In this chaotic space, there is no concept of time at all. In this battle between the two, any existence becomes false. Only infinite killing is real. Outside world, Dahai and Mr. Da stood quietly in the void. But as time passed, the expressions of the two people also changed. Should we all die together? Mr. Big muttered to himself. Long Fei in that state was extremely terrifying. But Long Fei himself was not simple either. It can be said that the two have the same means. The only difference is whether they are willing to take the initiative to use the power of annihilation. But Long Fei is also a ruthless person, and at this time, he will definitely have no reservations. What he is afraid of now is that both of them will use that kind of power to annihilate everything and die together. It's impossible. That kind of power is terrifying, but neither Long Fei nor the other self hidden in his sea of consciousness are outside that kind of power. Therefore, there is no possibility of perishing together. Now, just look at them both, who can take a step back first. Dahai directly denied Mr. Da's guess and opened his mouth to analyze. Mr. Da frowned, but did not refute Dahai's words. He and Long Fei have not been together for a long time, and his biggest understanding is that Long Fei is an unstable factor and has the power of destruction. As for Long Fei's temperament, he definitely doesn't know as much as Dahai. Then who do you think will come out? After pondering for a few moments, Mr. Da asked. Dahai smiled softly. Whoever gives in first will become a subordinate. Based on my understanding of Long Fei, what comes out is probably the body of disaster existing in his body. Dahai said, actually, he may not be the cause of the disaster. Mr. Da said in a low voice. After all, he and Long Fei already had this guess in their previous discussion. After all, he was a variable in the disaster, but as a variable when he and Long Fei entered that state, he had no way to deal with it. Although he is a variable, nothing can be changed. It is difficult for him not to doubt. Dahai obviously heard what he said. His eyebrows sank, and an obscure light flashed in his eyes. But Mr. Da didn't see this. Boom! Suddenly, the void shook, An inexplicable force swept across the sky. The next moment, Long Fei opened his eyes directly. His eyes flashed with indifference and indifference to all sentient beings. Hiss! In an instant, Mr. De took a breath of cold air. This kind of gaze does not belong to Long Fei. In other words, what comes back may be the catastrophic body in that state. As soon as this thought came to his mind, he felt his whole body numb and his steps became heavy. But there is no way. His cultivation is not enough to support him to escape unscathed in this state. Dahai's face also became serious, and he looked Long Fei up and down. But before he could speak, a fist was directly reflected in his eyes. Boom! The fist light shook the sky, and the terrifying breaking power suddenly erupted in the void. Dahai also reacted in an instant, moved his feet, and suddenly retreated. But this punch seemed to lock him in, and he was pursued relentlessly. He ran after him, but there seemed to be nowhere to escape. Mr. De was left standing in the void, with a stunned look on his face. Something's wrong. If it's the body of disaster in Long Fei's body, he shouldn't be so hostile to the sea. He was confused. If it is normal for Long Fei to be hostile to Dahai, after all, in their previous speculation, Long Fei was the party being calculated. The mastermind behind this is most likely Dahai, but if it is a disaster body, it is indifferent to everything. In his eyes, the sea is just a powerful creature. He is not hostile to anything, because his existence is to destroy. Therefore, as soon as Long Fei's mind returned, he launched a fierce attack on the sea, which actually made him doubtful. But he still didn't dare to define it, and could only look at the void coldly. In the void, the two figures could no longer be seen, and they had disappeared into the void and entered the sky beyond the sky. Obviously, Dahai doesn't want to fight Long Fei in this world. In that case, there is no need to talk about the apocalypse disaster. The two of them are disasters and can destroy everything. The scene changed, and there was nothingness and nothingness beyond the sky. This place is empty for thousands of miles, and there is no breath at all. It is pure nothingness. Dahai's footsteps also stopped, and when he turned around, he slapped a palm. Boom! Palms and fists collided in the void, making a terrifying explosion sound. Immediately, circles of destruction ripples formed, scattering across the world. Wherever he passed, even nothingness became an illusion, as if it had been penetrated. But soon, nothingness was reshaped, because nothingness itself does not exist. Even after it is torn apart, it is still nothingness. You are not pretending at all. If you were the cause of the disaster, you would not take action against me. Right, Long Fei? Dahai said softly, with a calm tone. Long Fei didn't respond, just snorted coldly. Then, he summoned a field sword in his hand. The only sword. Without any hesitation, he directly broke through the void, blooming billions of rays of light, illuminating the void. Dahai curled his lips, shook his head slightly, then stretched out his hand to condense a sword, and slashed into the void. Two sword lights suddenly spread across the sky and the earth, as if they were about to cut through the void, exuding endless terror. Brush! Almost at the same time, their swords collided together in nothingness. Rumble! Rumble! This time it was even more terrifying. The entire void was penetrated, shining power into the real world, and the endless galaxies began to shatter. However, both of them stopped with a tacit understanding and stopped this trend. You are much stronger. After the sword light dissipated, Dahai stared at Long Fei and said, quietly, "You are nothing more than that." Long Fei responded. Originally, Long Fei might be on a different level from Dahai, but this time he seemed to have undergone a transformation, as if he had already melted the power that was the cause of the disaster and took action to create it. "Do you have any misunderstandings about me? Let me tell you, you must not make blind guesses. Among the 4 categories in the universe, I am really a variable. Dahai continued. I don't believe it. Long Fei replied without even looking. Chapter 58:28. Chapter 58:28. Long Fei's face was expressionless and cold. Will the sea explain? Based on his knowledge of the sea, he is not such a person. If you can do it, there will be no beeping. He always appeared in front of everyone with a superior attitude. From the first time I met him until now, there has never been an exception. He is like a chess player, and all living beings are just pawns on his chessboard. Even Long Fei is just a chess piece that can be beaten and killed. But now, he actually opened his mouth to explain. This is completely unreasonable. Why are you like this? I advise you to be kind. Dahai looked helpless, feeling a little lost, and Long Fei couldn't get enough of it. I won't listen to advice. As for you, stop talking nonsense and fight again. Long Fei's eyes were cold, and he didn't even think about stopping at this moment and taking action again. Stop fighting. It's meaningless. Although I can't suppress you now, your methods can't do anything to me. It's useless to continue fighting. Dahai said. He is not afraid of Long Fei. Although the power displayed by Long Fei was very strong, it had improved a lot compared to before, and was already approaching his level. But the infinite approach still never crosses that level. Therefore, he is still invincible. However, now he wanted to suppress Long Fei lightly, but he couldn't do it. But Long Fei was unmoved at this time, as if he couldn't listen to a word of Dahai's words, and just bullied him. Dahai's eyes darkened, with a mix of helplessness and anger. For many years, no one has been able to disturb his mood, but now Long Fei has successfully destroyed his mentality. But there is no way. If the dragon flies up, then we have to fight. Time passed, I don't know how long it took, and calm finally returned to the void. This piece of nothingness was completely destroyed. It cycled through constant reorganization and destruction. In the end, it was completely ruined and could not even be reorganized. And Long Fei and Dahai finally stopped. But at this moment, Long Fei was miserable. The physical body has been broken several times and is dripping with blood. Although Dahai is much better, he is still seriously injured, his clothes are torn, and he has long lost his original calmness and calmness. But it can be seen that Long Fei is still completely defeated. Enough of the fighting. I told you not to fight, but you didn't listen. Now you are stupid. Dahai mocked mercilessly. Long Fei's body, which was limp in the void, stiffened. The next moment, he got up directly. Then come again. Dahai suddenly regretted why he had to get high when he had nothing to do. Stop. Calm down first. I know why you took action. You think I am the calamity, and you have been scheming to make you take the blame, so you are in a difficult mood, right? But you are wrong. If I am the calamity itself, there is no need for this at all so strenuous. Dahai said. Long Fei paused. Maybe you want to find a sense of accomplishment from it. Asking in return, Long Fei still had disbelief in his eyes. It's not necessary. At my level, I don't care about these low-level fun at all. Think about it. Would you be excited about destroying a small world now? Dahai asked back. It's impossible. Your stance determines your attitude. Now you are the only ceiling, and you are only one step away from the next level. It can even be said that you have already stepped into that realm with 1 foot. Even if you want to take this level with your means, one Fong Tiandi collapsed easily. There is no sense of accomplishment in something you can do with just a wave of your hand. Dahai continued. Long Fei fell silent. He couldn't deny what Dahai said. The doubts in my heart gradually dissipated. I want an explanation. Long Fei continued. Dahai was stunned, but did not speak directly. Instead, he looked at Long Fei with interest, and then said, I can give you an explanation, but I just want to explain it to Long Fei. But now whether you are Long Fei or not is still unknown. Dahai said, his eyes suddenly sharp like a long knife falling on Long Fei. I am Long Fei. There is no need to explain. If it were him, do you think he would beeping here with you so much? Long Fei responded, Dahai. Dahai originally wanted to disgust Long Fei, but he didn't expect that Long Fei would rebel against him. But this is true. He had seen Long Fei in that state. That is a dehumanizing existence. All things in the universe are just simple existences in his eyes. He will not be moved by anything at all and ignores the common people. In other words, it was as if Long Fei had said it. If it had been that existence, he would not have said so much to him at this moment. How did you do it? Dahai pondered for a moment and then asked, If I die, he will die. He doesn't want to die, so he can only go back to that portal. However, I don't have much time. Long Fei said, which was an explanation to Dahai. What do you mean? Dahai suddenly looked serious. 10 days. I only have 10 days. This is the agreement I made with him. If I can't get everything done within 10 days, he will come out again. Long Fei said in a deep voice. Dahai narrowed his eyes. 10 days. With a murmur, Dahai looked at Long Fei as if he had made up his mind. Okay, then I'll give you an explanation. Outside the prehistoric world, Mr. Da is like an old monk in meditation, closing his eyes in the void. There was no way, he had no choice. Below is the catastrophe of prehistoric times, and the aura of annihilation envelopes the entire world. Even if he exists anciently, he cannot interfere in it. As for the battle between Long Fei and Dahai, he couldn't get involved. That kind of battle is already the pinnacle of this world, and with his existence, he is simply not qualified to enter. To put it simply, it was a high-end game. He was a good person, and it was an accident that he was lucky enough to become an assistant, so he must not waste it. But suddenly, while waiting, there was a sudden change before his eyes. A layer of red light suddenly appeared in the prehistoric world, wrapped in the endless power of destruction. Moreover, there are countless data and characters hovering above it, constantly changing. Hiss, is this digitalization? In an instant, Mr. Da lost his composure. He was too familiar with this kind of power. In the previous place of origin, it was a world composed of data. And there, he is the master. But now, the prehistoric world has begun to be digitized, which makes it difficult for him to calm down. TSK, variable. This is a variable. Mr. Da said in a deep voice with gleaming eyes. Now, this change brought him an unexpected surprise. He was still full of suspicion before, feeling that he was a marginal figure with no sense of existence when he entered the game. That was extremely scary. Being useless means being cannon fodder and can be eliminated at any time. But things are different now. The digitization of the prehistoric world means that the power he possesses finally has a use. Chapter 58:29. Chapter 58:29. This discovery surprised Mr. Da. Almost instantly, he stood up suddenly with uncontrollable joy in his eyes. The wildly beating numbers in front of him were like family members to him. Here, yes, this parameter is the power that determines nirvana. With this parameter as the center and radiating out, the power of nirvana can envelope the world. But I can change it. If I can change this parameter, then nirvana will destroy it. It can be twisted with force. Mr. Big is too familiar with data. Countless years ago, he became the prophet of the land of origin. Whatever power any data carries, he can capture it with just one glance. Just at this moment, he realized the key to changing the prehistoric world almost in just one breath. Fortunately, this power has come in time. If another quarter of an hour passes, I am afraid that the power of annihilation will swallow up this world. Even if I take action, I will not be able to change it. But now, nothing is a problem. I not only want to reverse it, but I also want to reverse the flow of time and space. Mr. De looked at the ancient world in front of him. He felt that his spring had finally come. He saw with his own eyes how much Long Fei cared about the prehistoric world. If he could reverse the prehistoric world and return everything to before the disaster, then Long Fei would definitely be grateful to him. Thinking of this, he became more and more excited. He was now sure that Long Fei was the one who came back this time. Otherwise, it would not have been possible to target Dahai. As soon as this idea came to him, he no longer hesitated. The next moment, he stretched out his hand a little and began to modify the data. Beyond nothingness. So, you want to use me as bait to attract the fifth type of existence in the world. Long Fei's face was extremely solemn. He looked at the sea, still with a look of disbelief in his eyes. To say that the heavens are in the fifth category is actually a bit flattering to ourselves. If we divide the levels, he is in the first category. The 4 categories of heavens that you know are all one level lower. Dahai said with a solemn expression. Long Fei also fell silent. He had no doubts about the truth of what Dahai said, but he couldn't find anything wrong with this explanation. In his explanation, there is an innate being in this endless universe. To be precise, it existed before the universe. Endless galaxies and worlds were born under his gaze. He defined this being as God. The apocalypse tribulation is just a process he uses to deny all existence. For example, Long Fei understood the 4 categories of heaven. It's just 4 assistants created by that being to help him complete this process. Dahai was aware of this existence a long time ago and only started to make arrangements after he reached the realm of the only one. Become a chess player yourself and start a game with this existence that exists in the unknown. In other words, Long Fei's previous guess was correct. To a certain extent, the sea is the culprit, but what he did was a false destruction. The purpose is to deceive the unknown being. In this process, Long Fei became his pawn, executing the destruction. Even if what you said is true, are you sure that you will kill the other party when he comes out? Long Fei asked. This game is too big. If what Dahai said was true, they were now playing against the ultimate boss. This is all too familiar to Long Fei. It's done. The rewards are astounding. If you lose, you won't have to drop a level and start over, which means you will die directly. Don't worry about this. After I broke through to the realm of my true self, I analyzed that man's strength and found that he is about 50 to 50 equal to me. With you in the mix, it will be easy to kill him. Dahai said directly, but Long Fei frowned deeply. Although the sea has always been extremely stable, but this time Long Fei had doubts in his heart. But before he could show it, Dahai's expression suddenly darkened. Damn it, my house was stolen. Dahai suddenly stood up, his eyes suddenly turned, and he looked out into nothingness. Long Fei was stunned for a moment, and then looked over. When he saw that the calamity of the prehistoric world was gradually dissipating, countless dead creatures returned to their true nature, and the aura of war and death began to disappear, he was stunned. He even saw many familiar figures through the void. Qingying, Tianqi, Tianxin, Yingdi, Long Batian, and King Shang. At this point, they came together. But there was no fight. Instead, everyone looked confused. It seems that they did not expect that such a reversal would occur at a time when they were on the verge of extinction. Have you been noticed And are you trying to bring things back to order? Long Fei asked. For a moment, Long Fei believed a little more in what Dahai said before. No, I was robbed by a piece of shit. Dahai was extremely helpless. Long Fei frowned slightly, then turned his eyes and saw Mr. De doing something with excitement. I understood immediately. Did something change happen? Dahai nodded. Sure enough, that guy is not simple. I have calculated everything. Variables are variables after all, and they will still dig holes for me at critical moments. Dahai looked helpless. In the original plan, when the prehistoric world was destroyed, Long Fei turned on the violent mode and directly destroyed the galaxy and buried everything with him. Then the being defined by the sea as God will awaken. After all, Long Fei did what he should do, and he would definitely not tolerate it. At that time, everyone will gather at the card table, play against each other, and directly determine the winner or loser. But now, the plan goes bankrupt, directly and fundamentally disintegrate, without the destruction of the prehistoric world. The cause of disaster carried by Long Fei would not have detonated. Even if Long Fei forced his way to destroy it, he would not be able to disturb that existence. In other words, Dahai has already lost this round. For a moment, Dahai's eyes fell on Mr. Da with an urge to kill him, but he didn't see that Long Fei's eyes were inexplicably cold at this moment. But when he came to his senses, Long Fei returned to normal. Let's go. Since the plan is bankrupt, let's review it again. Oh, I'm so tired, Dahai said helplessly. In an instant, he stepped out of the void and headed in the direction of Mr. De. Long Fei followed closely behind. At this time, Mr. Da is immersed in his own creation. A world could be changed so easily in his hands, which gave him an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. Moreover, this place is different from the place of origin. The place of origin is a world woven by data, but here it is a real existence. Nowadays, a real world is woven with data to change the established destiny, which makes Mr. Da feel very fulfilled. It's like standing in the position of God, dominating everything. He was so immersed in it that he didn't even notice Long Fei and Dahai approaching. You're a dick. Suddenly Dahai spoke. Mr. Big turned his head sharply. Seeing both of them appearing in front of him intact, their expressions were slightly surprised. But he didn't notice the coldness in Dahai's eyes. SOSO. You are right. Variables have appeared. Moreover, they appear in the field that I am best at. Long Fei, you can rest assured now. I have reversed the fate of the prehistoric world and changed everything. But I still need your help next. When the power of annihilation disappears, the Lord of Annihilation among the 4 categories will definitely not give up, so he will be left to you. Chapter 58:30. Chapter 58:30. Mr. Da talked eloquently, as if he was qualified to sit on the table and participate in the game. Long Fei didn't react much, but then he seemed to think of something and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Long Fei's tone was calm, even a little playful, and then he looked towards the sea. If there was no plan to get familiar with the sea, Long Fei should naturally show excitement. But now, seeing the depressed expression on Dahai's face, Long Fei also restrained himself. At least, that's how it looks to the ocean. But Mr. Da didn't seem to notice it, and just said, "It's not hard. We are aliens, and helping you is also helping myself." Hey, Mr. Da is so humble when he says this. You are so awesome. Dahai suddenly spoke and mocked. In an instant, Mr. Da's face suddenly became embarrassed. If he couldn't tell something was wrong in Dahai's tone at this time, he would be an idiot. Damn it, is Dahai really the master of robbery? Now I helped Long Fei and made him unhappy. Mr. Da made a move, and layers of cold sweat began to break out on his forehead. Continue, don't stop. Let me take a good look at Mr. Big's methods. It's wonderful, it's so wonderful that being in the land of Nirvana, who worked so hard to build such a big battle, was so easily dismissed. Mr. Big is disintegrated. Really awesome. Dahai said quietly, with a cold light escaping from his eyes. Mr. Big's expression was stiff. His face looked as embarrassed as if he had eaten shit. Subconsciously, he looked at Long Fei with pleading in his eyes. He is really afraid. If Dahai sees him unhappy, he can kill him with a backhand, and the only one he can rely on is Long Fei. Moreover, no matter what, he helped Long Fei this time, and Long Fei had no reason to refuse. But he was disappointed. Long Fei looked away and said calmly, "You continue, I will kill the Lord of Annihilation." With that said, Long Fei suddenly turned around, and where neither of them noticed, his eyes became cold again. The next moment, Long Fei's figure moved and flew directly towards the ancient world. At the same time, a roar came from the prehistoric world. Who did this? A roar came from the prehistoric world, extremely furious, as if carrying the overwhelming anger. Immediately afterwards, several figures appeared in the sky. Everyone looked at the void with empty faces. Long Fei looked at the people in front of him, and his eyes shrank slightly, as if something had affected his mood. Immediately, a cold light appeared in his eyes. "How dare you touch my woman?" Yes, several figures appeared in front of him, and Long Fei was no stranger to them. It was Yi Yurong, Nuo Zhuanxiang, and Tushan Xiaoya. But at this time, their expressions were extremely cold, as if they had no memory of Long Fei, they just had cold faces. "Humph, your women, they have returned to the ruins and are now mine." At this time, the voice appeared again. Immediately afterwards, a figure emerged from the prehistoric world. As soon as he appeared, the entire void turned gray, as if wrapped in annihilation, leading him back to ruins. Long Fei's eyes were calm, with a hint of contempt in his indifference. "Then I'll beat you to death, and let them return from the ruins." Long Fei responded coldly, "Beat me to death? Do you have the strength?" The Lord of Annihilation responded coldly. He was not afraid of Long Fei. After all, he once reversed the origin of heaven in the prehistoric world and suppressed Long Fei. Moreover, he is also one of the four categories, the master of all things returning to ruins, so he naturally has his own confidence. "Then give it a try," Long Fei said coldly. The next moment, Long Fei punched directly into the void. Boom! Thousands of feet of fist light shot into the void, carrying a violent force that destroyed everything and rushed down. Humph! The gate to the ruins. The Lord of Annihilation gave a cold shout, then raised his hand to create a portal. Within the portal, the terrifying power of returning to ruins surged like a huge wave, flowing out continuously. Then it turned into a ferocious beast that wreaked havoc in the sky. In an instant, the two forces collided. Boom, boom, boom. In an instant, the prehistoric beasts transformed from the power of Guishu collapsed one after another. However, the power of Long Fei's punch did not seem to exert the power of destruction, and actually began to collapse under the submersion of the power of Guishu. For a moment, Long Fei's eyes narrowed. At the same time, a look of disbelief appeared on Mr. Da's face in the void. He had seen with his own eyes how strong Long Fei was. I thought that when Long Fei faced the Lord of Annihilation, he could suppress it with just a pinch, but he didn't expect that the other party could disintegrate Long Fei's power so easily. That's all you are. How awesome do I think you are? You open and close your mouth to kill me. Do you have the ability? The Lord of Annihilation mocked. Long Fei remained unmoved. I hope you still have the courage to say this later. The power of returning to ruins is a bit interesting, but that's it. Long Fei responded. Then, in an instant, his breath suddenly changed. The violent aura in his body disappeared and was replaced by a kind of indifference, extreme indifference. The next moment, he slowly raised his hand, and a black hole seemed to be brewing in his palm. Immediately afterwards, the power of returning to the ruins between heaven and earth suddenly surged toward Long Fei's palm like a storm sweeping across it. Moreover, Long Fei's palm seemed to have infinite space, and he would not reject anyone who came, but he would swallow up all the power in just a moment. This scene made the eyes of Dahai and Mr. De change in the void. Is he really Long Fei? Mr. De said quietly. Before, he thought it was Long Fei who came back, but now Long Fei used this power lightly, making him unsure. Dahai nodded slightly, thinking about something, but did not respond. Mr. De glanced at the sea and did not dare to say anything more. At this time, the one who has changed the most is naturally the Lord of Annihilation. The power of returning to ruins is his foundation. It can return all things to ruins and make all things disappear. It is an unsolvable rule. Under the only one, there is no possibility of survival. But now, Long Fei was able to swallow up this kind of power, which made him feel terrified. Although he knew that Guishu was the only one who would not die, but there is absolutely no way it could be disintegrated in such an understatement. What's even more terrifying is that the vortex in Long Fei's hand is still enlarging, and the terrifying devouring power coming from it is encompassing the entire void. At this moment, the Lord of Annihilation felt panic in his heart. He felt that if he continued, even his door to the ruins would be swallowed up. And this gate of return to ruins is the foundation of his strength. If even the gate of return to ruins is swallowed up, then there will be a dead end waiting for him. Come on, kill him for me. You are his women, and he will never kill him. The Lord of Annihilation panicked and began to order Iorong and others to take action. The three of them seemed to be dominated, and they took action directly the moment his voice fell. Swish, brush, brush. 3 rays of light shone brightly in the void, and their only power suddenly fell into the void. Chapter 58:31. Chapter 58:31, The Power of Iorong, and the 3 of them is extremely terrifying. After all, they are in the only realm. When you reach this state, you have transcended heaven and earth, and can destroy an entire world with just a single movement of your hands. Moreover, they all broke through to this realm because of the Lord of Nirvana. The aura of Nirvana was carried in their bodies. At this time, every move they made burst out with destructive power. Long Fei's face became colder and colder. He has been avoiding it and has not really taken any action. The power wasn't enough to really hurt him. But being pressed and beaten like this all the time, even the clay figurine was aroused. Subconsciously, a fierce light gathered in his eyes. Open your palms, and the swallowing black hole also condenses in your palms. In the void, Dahai, who was looking at Mr. De with a mocking look on his face, suddenly shrank his eyes. He is getting more and more skilled in using this power. Dahai's voice was cold. No, to be precise, its murderous intent. Mr. Da's expression was stunned. Originally, Dahai scolded him so much that he didn't even dare to fart, but he didn't feel any killing intent from Dahai. But at this moment, Dahai had murderous intention towards Long Fei. For a moment, he began to grasp the word see. Could it be that this Long Fei is really him in another state? If it is true, then he is too good at pretending. Mr. Big speculated in his mind, although he also had some doubts, such as the combat power displayed by Long Fei. Especially the power displayed before was such that the Lord of Annihilation had no way to deal with it and had to let his men take action. But unfortunately, these people are the people closest to Long Fei. But during the battle, although Long Fei tried his best to restrain himself and was even passively beaten, he still caught the changes in Long Fei's aura several times. He had murderous intent. As we all know, Long Fei has nothing to say to his own people, especially his own women. How could he kill her? The only explanation is that he is not Long Fei. 1 year later, he looked towards the sea. But at this time, the murderous intention on Dahai had disappeared without a trace, and he returned to his previous calm, just looking at the void quietly. These people are playing too hard. They are really infernal. Mr. Da suddenly sighed in his heart. Long Fei was acting, and Dahai was also acting, but he seemed to be a fool floating between them. Ahem, do you think Long Fei is satisfied now? Mr. Da asked. He couldn't help it. He was more afraid of Long Fei than the sea. If it were Long Fei in another state, he would be truly murderous, and any existence in front of him would be meaningless. He doesn't bear any burden. As long as there is an emotional conflict with him, just say a word and do it directly. Although Dahai is a little stronger, he at least has his own rules for doing things and won't be so vicious. He makes some sense, although not much. After all, at their level, they are already transcendent and can do whatever they want. But Dahai has his own plan. He wants to end the apocalypse tribulation, so he will naturally consider more about some things. Because he himself is in the game. What's wrong? He has gone through so much. Is it reasonable for him to have such fighting power? Moreover, since he came out of the land of annihilation, it is also reasonable for him to be able to suppress the power of the Lord of Annihilation, right? Dahai, he chuckled as if nothing happened. It was as if he was not the one who had the murderous intention before. Mr. Big is confused. Suddenly, he began to wonder why he came out. In this game, he thought he was one of the protagonists, but he didn't expect that he was so out of place now that he couldn't even figure it out. Watch carefully. But at this time, the sound of the sea continued to fall, the clouds were calm, and the wind was gentle, as if he was just a bystander. While the two were talking, Long Fei's battle was still going on. Just like before, Long Fei was being pressed and beaten. No action was taken the whole time. Even the devouring vortex that had been condensed before was now suppressed again. TSK, it seems that you still can't do it. In this case, you should die forever. The voice of the Lord of Nirvana also fell from the void. What followed was a world of silence that covered the sky and the sun. The breath of annihilation enveloped the void, spreading the breath of all things returning to ruins, replacing the original sky. This aura is extremely terrifying, wiping out the entire void. It seems that even nothingness cannot escape the fruit of annihilation, and everything is doomed. Even Eorong and the other three were not spared and were directly swallowed by this aura. Long Fei froze. You want to die? The purpose of the Lord of Nirvana is obvious, which is to take advantage of Long Fei's concern for a few people, and then repeat the world to open up the land of Nirvana for Long Fei. He just calculated that Long Fei would definitely not let it go. As long as a few people are absorbed into it, Long Fei will naturally enter Nirvana again. Looking for death? It's you who are looking for death. Although I don't know how you came out of my world of Nirvana, but this time, I don't believe you still have such strength. The voice of the Lord of Nirvana came from the void passed out. It is no longer possible to fight alone. Long Fei's power can restrain his power of annihilation. Only by enveloping him into annihilation can he be suppressed. And this is his surefire method. In the void, the sea is still calm, looking at the Lord of Nirvana in front of him, jumping up and down without any words. Mr. Da's eyes flashed with light. Then there was a gasp. At this moment, he could not analyze at all what kind of power was under this breath of silence. unable to render data. In other words, the power of annihilation was beyond his ability, and he was unable to analyze and present it. Hiss, this power is terrifying. It is much stronger than the power that shrouded the world before. Dahai glanced at him. It's normal, now he has started to fight hard. If he doesn't have some means to press the bottom of the box, then he has no chance at all. You mean Long Fei will be in danger? Mr. De asked. At this moment, there was a bit of urgency in his voice. What? Weren't you still doubting Long Fei's identity before? Now, if he is killed by the Lord of Annihilation, wouldn't it be exactly what you want? Dahai said, leisurely, don't talk nonsense. You are slandering me. I was brought out by Long Fei. We are on the same front. How could I hope that something would happen to him? Mr. De quickly denied it. This is impossible to admit. Although he did think so in his mind, he knew better that if something happened to Long Fei, it would most likely be his turn next. Now, the suspicion of Dahai has not been cleared, and it is still unknown who is the master of the robbery. He doubted Long Fei, and naturally he didn't trust Dahai either. Only when two people are alive will both parties be afraid. Hey, don't worry, Long Fei will not die so easily, but one of the 4 types of heavens is indeed going to die. Dahai's eyes glowed with cold light. Mr. Big was silent. If Long Fei is not dead, it is self-evident who will die. But he was even more confused. Who was the cold look in Dahai's eyes at this moment? Chapter 58:32. Chapter 58:32 in the void. Long Fei looked at the spreading world of annihilation. The aura of annihilation is like a rolling torrent containing great terror, and the tribulation light spreads one after another. It is no exaggeration to say that the power that can emit calamity light is already the limit between heaven and earth. In addition, the power of the Lord of Annihilation itself brings him closer to death. In just a moment, this power brewed up emotions that made all living beings infinitely frightened. And similarly, Long Fei's eyes were filled with frost. Dragon has reversed scales. Those who touch me will never end well. Long Fei's voice was cold. Now that we have it, not only your people, but also you will not end well this time. I will make you die completely this time. The voice of the Lord of Nirvana fell again. Moreover, do you still have the intention to show off in front of me now? They are not you, and the current world of Nirvana is not the place you entered before. With their strength, they cannot survive in it for a moment. You continue to talk, they died more completely. The Lord of Nirvana continued to speak confidently. Of course, if you can watch them die, then I will admit it. He just thinks that he has figured out Long Fei now. Judging from the emotions shown by Long Fei, he would never ignore these people. And this is his chance. They won't die. Your world of Nirvana is not as invincible as you think. Long Fei responded. Immediately afterwards, Long Fei's figure turned and disappeared directly into the sky. Of course, he chose to enter the game personally. No matter what the Lord of Annihilation's plan was to Long Fei, he didn't care. It was impossible for him to turn a blind eye, that was his woman, and he would naturally not give up. The Lord of Annihilation saw Long Fei's figure disappearing into it, and his mood became even more arrogant. Ha ha, what can you do if you can fight? Aren't you going to be killed by me? As long as you enter it, you will die. The advocate of annihilation laughs. Wildly, laughs the sound swept the world. Idiot! But on the other side, the sea is mercilessly mocking. Mr. De raised his head, frowned, and said nothing. There is no need to say more about who this sentence belongs to. But what he didn't understand was why Dahai had such confidence that Long Fei would be able to break the situation. At this time, in the prehistoric world, several figures stood side by side. Ing, Qingying, Tianqi, Tianxin, Long Batian, and DXIN. He's getting stronger again. I feel like he's approaching another level now. Ing said. He was summoned by Long Fei. At first, he could still sense Long Fei's strength, but at this moment he had no idea. Long Fei's cultivation level has exceeded him too much and is beyond the range of his perception. Of course, it doesn't matter who I am, DXIN said. Although he is currently carrying DXIN's body, his spirit is his own, and he is really the son of Long Fei from the ancient temple. Ing was non-committal, but didn't say anything. On the contrary, Long Batian was not happy, and started to say vigorously. Yin Yang said, "Humph, I don't know what his identity is now. Maybe he is the cause and effect of the apocalypse tribulation. What's there to be proud of? Tisk, TSK, jealousy makes people look beyond recognition. Do you want to listen to what you are saying?" Of course, DXIN was not used to it. Now he and Long Batian are at odds, saying that Long Fei just can't do it. Senior, even Senior Dahai doesn't have a definition for this matter. It's a bit malicious for you to say this. Tianqi said. He has now changed his mind and no longer helps Dahai. But naturally, he also knew that Dahai had made speculations about Long Fei. He felt that he had to show his own attitude. Otherwise, he would not be able to tolerate him here. I believe in Long Fei. Qingying said. I believe in my master's wife. Tianxin said. I believe him. Ingya added. Long Batian. Although Long Batian was unhappy, he could only shut up now. Otherwise, he would offend the public. DXIN looked at Long Batian's defeat and couldn't help but sneered. I heard that you forced my father to come here. How about now? Seeing that my father is getting further and further away, now, you are not even qualified to sit on the table. This isn't the seed gap. Very sour? Long Batian's eyes widened angrily. You little bastard, you are looking for death. Long Batian was angry, but as soon as he opened his mouth, he felt several eyes from around him falling on him. Humph, you can do it. You are awesome. I can't afford to offend you. Long Batian snorted coldly and had to lower his head. But Long Fei didn't know all this. At this time, Long Fei was already immersed in the world of silence. I have to say that the Lord of Nirvana is worthy of being one of the 4 categories in the heavens. This power of Nirvana is truly terrifying. Even at this time, Long Fei could feel a little depressed. In front of him, Yi Yurong and others were wrapped in the power of annihilation. Their vitality was being devoured infinitely, and they were already on the verge of death. And deeper still, there is a figure. It is the Lord of Nirvana. He is formless and omnipresent. But at this time, he condensed his own incarnation and came here just to see how Long Fei died. If you don't come in, I really don't know you. But now that you are here, this is your burial place. The Lord of Annihilation spoke, like a judgment, directly judging Long Fei's life and death. Give definition. Long Fei didn't respond. One more word would be enough for this kind of thing. With his temper, if he faced such a person, he would just slap him to death. But now, he wants to save people first. Turning his eyes, Long Fei raised his palm. A black hole slowly emerged in the palm of his hand. That all-devouring power burst out again. Moreover, this time Long Fei had no reservations. Before, outside under the nose of the sea, it was really difficult for him to use this power. But now, there is no scruple. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the entire void suddenly became chaotic, and the power of annihilation that had enveloped Yi Yurong and the others collapsed silently, as if they were rootless duckweeds. They began to lose their support as the devouring power in Long Fei's palm exploded, and they all turned toward him. It came from the black hole condensed in Long Fei's palm. In just a moment, the power dissipated without a trace. Yurong and the three of them have also returned to normal, and the vitality in their bodies is no longer lost. But with just a glance, they came towards Long Fei again. Long Fei didn't realize it, but when a few people came closer, he raised his hand and dropped it. Boom! The devouring power turned into a palm that covered the sky, directly suppressing the three of them. Afterwards, the devouring power continued to escape from the black hole in the palm, turning into chains and blocking several people. But Long Fei did not continue to take action. Be honest, wait until I kill this old guy first, and then take you away. Long Fei said, no longer paying attention to everyone, but raised his head to look at the Lord of Nirvana. Do you think this is a killing plot you arranged for me? Ha ha, you're overthinking it. If you didn't want to hide to see how I killed you, you wouldn't even have the chance to use this power. Long Fei said. And then the figures gathered together, plucked onions from the dry land, and stood in the void. Chapter 58:33. Chapter 58:33. Long Fei seemed to have changed into a different person in an instant. The moment he soared into the sky, he exuded a terrifying aura. This breath is not within heaven and earth, like an outsider's power, full of endless chill. On the other side, the Lord of Annihilation's expression instantly became extremely embarrassing. Long Fei was right. He really thought that this was the killing plot he had arranged for Long Fei. The people around him are the people Long Fei cares about, and based on his understanding of Long Fei, he is a person who cares very much about his own people. So he just wanted to use Long Fei's concern to restrain Long Fei. But he didn't guess. Long Fei has always been pretending, but it was just for the sea to see. Now that Long Fei truly showed his aura, he felt terrified. It is already infinitely close to the only one. This is not at the same level as what he showed before. As soon as this aura appeared, he felt as if he was about to die. How is that possible? I am the Lord of Annihilation. I have always been the master of destruction. Why would there be power that can make me feel death? The Lord of Annihilation's voice was full of disbelief. He has existed for eternity and has dominated the destruction of heaven and earth. The sun, moon, and stars have experienced death several times in his hands. He thought that he was no longer within death and existed forever. But at this moment, this feeling reminded him clearly, it's not that he's immortal. It's just that he hasn't met anyone who can make him die. And now this person appears. You will not die because I am gone. In this world, except for the sea, no one I let die will be able to live. Long Fei's voice was cold. He has now developed a desire to kill. Especially the existence of the Lord of Annihilation has nothing to say. Daring to threaten him with his woman will lead to death. The Lord of Annihilation fell silent, and his figure began to flicker. At this time, he doesn't have any of the arrogance he had before. Can't get mad at all. The threat of death was right in front of him, so real that all his thoughts disappeared. All he wanted at this moment was to escape from death as soon as possible. If you escape, you still have a chance of survival, but if you continue to stay here, you will die. But before he could make any move, Long Fei suddenly moved. As he raised his hand, a devouring force burst out directly from Long Fei's hand. In an instant, the face of the Lord of Annihilation suddenly changed. This was the source of his death. This kind of aura is fundamentally different from the devouring power that Long Fei displayed before, and it is much more tyrannical. What's even more terrifying is that this kind of power seems to have no power to restrain it, and it only takes a moment to cover the void of heaven and earth. Even if this world is his place of annihilation, it cannot stop this power at all. Boom, boom, boom. The heaven and earth are shaking. The power of devouring is extremely terrifying. It seems to be a force outside of everything and can restrain everything. Even if the Lord of Nirvana is one of the 4 categories in the heavens, he cannot escape being devoured. Visible to the naked eye, the terrifying devouring power fills the world, devouring all the power of annihilation. The entire world was transformed into a space with only the power of devouring in an instant, empty and dark. Only the swallowing vortex dominates everything, becoming the only color in the sky and the earth. How is it possible? What kind of power is this? There is no such existence among the 4 categories in the heavens. The Lord of Annihilation's voice was horrified. Now, he felt like he knew nothing about heaven and earth. Are the 4 categories of heavens said to be the strongest beings? Are they said to have the strongest power? Why now, as soon as Long Fei takes action, everything changes? The idea of escape in his heart was even more crazy, but a shackle seemed to appear between heaven and earth, imprisoning him tightly. The so-called power of annihilation is like a bubble. It cannot stir up any storms at all. It is completely useless. Even this power cannot break free. Stop. I admit defeat. Killing me will do you no good. All I have done is follow the will of Ishur. If you kill me, you are disobeying his will, which will do you no good. The benefits may even make you fall into an endless terror. The Lord of Nirvana spoke quickly. At this moment, facing Long Fei's power, he was really afraid. This kind of power crushes everything. His attempt to survive from this power is nothing more than a dream. And right now, the only way to possibly survive is to beg for mercy. Long Fei remained unmoved, but his eyes suddenly shrank. At the beginning, he didn't know what kind of existence this was, but these words coming from the Lord of Nirvana proved that there was really a pair of black hands behind it that controlled everything. Inexplicably, Long Fei thought of what Dahai said before. Dahai entered the situation with his own body, trying to lure that existence out. But in Dahai's mouth, he didn't seem to know what kind of existence that was beyond everything. It is precisely because of this that Long Fei was moved when the Lord of Annihilation said these words. The sea is not capable of concrete existence. You, the Lord of Nirvana, say you have seen it? Is it possible? And this moment of hesitation made the other party seem to sense something. I know that whether it is you or the sea, you are all looking for ways to prevent the outbreak of the apocalypse. But no matter what you do, it will be of no avail. Only that existence can deny everything. So you can't kill me. If you kill me, you will offend that person, and then maybe the apocalypse will come early. The Lord of Annihilation seized this opportunity and said crazily. He knew very well that this was his only bargaining chip. There is always something you care about, right? He didn't believe that Long Fei couldn't care less about the apocalypse tribulation. Sure enough, as he said these words, the devouring intention that filled the void also stopped at this moment, as if Long Fei was already afraid. Seeing this, the Lord of Annihilation was delighted. Long Fei, I have to say that you really exceeded expectations. When I dragged you into the land of Nirvana, I thought you would never have a chance to come out. Unexpectedly, you not only came out, but your strength also improved. You have already infinitely close to that level. But it's a pity that approaching is useless, not after all. If you really get to that point, maybe no one can stop you no matter what you want to do. But now you still can't. If you can't take that step, you can't be wanton act recklessly. The Lord of Annihilation started. He felt that Long Fei must have been shocked by his words now and did not dare to take action again. But Long Fei frowned slightly. There seemed to be a flash of doubt in his eyes. He doesn't understand. Is there any necessary connection between the two? Is there any necessary connection between me killing you and the apocalypse tribulation? If I don't kill you, the apocalypse tribulation will not come. Or if I kill you, the apocalypse tribulation will come immediately? After pondering for a moment, Long Fei asked again. The face of the Lord of Annihilation changed, and his mood that had just relaxed suddenly became tense again. The hot killing intent seemed to burn him. Does Long Fei really not care about the person behind him? Chapter 58:34. Chapter 58:34. The Lord of Nirvana panicked. He had never thought that it would be such a result before. He thought that if he took out the one behind him, as long as he revealed the identity of that person, Long Fei would be afraid, and all the crises would be solved. Unexpectedly, Long Fei didn't follow the routine at all, and just flipped the table. Long Fei, are you really not afraid of the one behind me coming? The Lord of Nirvana asked in return. Long Fei's emotional changes in an instant made him once again enveloped in despair. In fact, he already regretted it a little at this time. If you had known what you were pretending to be just now, wouldn't you have just left? Yes, he had a chance to leave just now, but now it's gone. Long Fei's intention to kill him has never changed, and it was only temporarily postponed because of a piece of news he brought. Now, it was obvious that Long Fei didn't care at all. I'm afraid he won't come. Do you think you are the only one who knows there is such an existence? Even someone like you can come into contact with it. Do you think Dahai and I will be completely unaware? Long Fei's voice was cold, with a strong sense of disdain. Good. At this time, Long Fei did have the idea in his heart that he wanted to see what happened. Originally, he had some doubts about Dahai's words, but now he got confirmation from the Lord of Annihilation. What to do? Of course, I wanted to use this method to find out this figure. Therefore, if killing the Lord of Annihilation could make the other party aware of it, Long Fei would naturally be more willing to do it. At this time, the Lord of Annihilation was immediately stunned, confused, afraid he won't come. These 4 words fell in his ears as if they were a death order. He didn't understand where Long Fei's confidence came from. This kind of existence was a terror that no one dared to face. He was actually thinking of pulling the other party out. But now, there is such an opportunity in front of him. As long as he kills himself, it will definitely attract the attention of that will. No, Long Fei, I think we can talk. Killing me will not do you any good. On the contrary, if you keep me, I can pass on the other person's will to you in the future. Yes, that person caused the apocalypse tribulation. Haven't you always wanted to stop the apocalypse tribulation? You have to start with him. Keep me, I can be an undercover agent. The Lord of Annihilation went straight to full fire, and he would speak out without reservation as long as it might make Long Fei afraid. After all, he is also afraid of death. I wasn't afraid before, because I thought I wouldn't die. But now it's different. Long Fei told him that anyone would die in front of Long Fei. Therefore, now I don't care about face at all and just admit my defeat. Long Fei was naturally unmoved. A flash of sarcasm flashed in his eyes, and then for a moment, he covered the sky with one hand, controlling the endless devouring vortex to sweep across the world. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the whole world began to roar, resounding in the void like a great bell. The face of the Lord of Annihilation changed instantly at this moment. A touch of fear was also rising in his heart. The feeling of imminent death is getting stronger and stronger, and Long Fei's voice also fell at this time. What's so troublesome? If you can't solve the trouble, then you will be the one who caused the trouble. I don't need to care about his will. He will die just like him. Long Fei said coldly, kill meaning from every word it flowed out of his eyes. To him, it seemed as if all living beings were already the same. As long as he is dead, there will be no accidents. But when these words fell into the ears of the Lord of Annihilation, they were enough to subvert his understanding. At this moment, he only had one concept left in his understanding of Long Fei. Crazy? If you are not crazy, how dare you say such a thing? What kind of existence it is only exists in his imagination. He just knows that that kind of existence is the only one, the real one. There is no second one between heaven and earth, the beginning before everything begins. But now, Long Fei is actually thinking of killing such a being. He really didn't know where Long Fei got such courage. Unfortunately, just as his thoughts flashed across his mind, a vortex suddenly descended and swallowed his body directly, leaving him no chance to even speak. Boom! The overwhelming power of devouring directly trapped the Lord of Annihilation within it. No, the Lord of Annihilation let out an unwilling wailing. But it's useless. This devouring power is a power outside of everything. Even Nirvana is in this world. Therefore, in front of this power, his power is equivalent to nothingness. There is no possibility of competing at all. He just instantly smelted. Boom, boom, boom. The figure of the Lord of Nirvana was like this incineration, and rays of Nirvana light began to erupt from his body. But it did not dissipate, but was directly enveloped by the devouring aura, and then merged into the devouring power. The world also began to become strange during this moment of devouring, and endless sorrow poured in from the unknown void. Long Fei slowly raised his head, but remained unmoved. At this moment, he actually felt an inexplicable will shrouding himself. And at the same moment, in the outside world, the sea also looked fiercely towards the far-reaching and empty void. That one. Dahai's eyes suddenly condensed, and a sense of killing suddenly raged through him. This change frightened the big gentleman on the side. "What's wrong with you?" Mr. Da asked tentatively, submissively. He faced the sea now, more cautiously than before. There is no way. If Long Fei is not here, he has no backing. With Long Fei here, he still has some confidence, but now he is still more reliable. Dahai ignored it, staring intently into nothingness. Then the next moment, his figure turned into a stream of light and disappeared in an instant. Did he discover something? Is there anything that would make him still afraid? Mr. Da breathed a sigh of relief. But it's also full of doubts. Is there anything more meaningful than the battle with Long Fei right now? Doesn't he care if Long Fei is still him? But it is destined to be an unsolvable question. There's no way. It's not the same level. Although he has the reputation of being one of the 4 categories of the heavens, his strength has not reached that level at all. So now, whether facing Long Fei or the sea, he has to be cautious. Just like this, he didn't feel anything different at all. At this time, there was silence in the heaven and earth. No, it should be swallowing the world at this time. The light of annihilation in this world has disappeared, leaving only some residual images of the Lord of Annihilation. His power finally gradually dissipated under Long Fei's devouring power. But at this moment, the Lord of Annihilation suddenly shouted, "Ha ha, I understand. It's you. After an exclamation, his power was completely exhausted, and he fell completely silent. But Long Fei's eyes became complicated. What did he find? Long Fei had some doubts in his eyes and fell into silence. Chapter 58:35. Chapter 58:35. The Lord of Annihilation must have seen something before dissipating. Long Fei didn't believe that he had inexplicable emotions before he died. Although he was afraid of death, He was too afraid to do such a meaningless thing. But Long Fei couldn't figure out what he saw to make him look like that. Yes, if it was just a word from him, Long Fei could ignore it. But there was a sharpness in his eyes that struck straight to the soul, which moved Long Fei's heart. For a moment, Long Fei fell silent, looked into the void, and remained silent for a long time. It wasn't until the world of silence in front of him began to gradually dissipate that Long Fei woke up from the silence. After a while, Long Fei covered the sky with one hand, creating a void of heaven and earth, and brought Yurong and others out. So when he came out, there was only himself, in the void. Only Mr. Do is waiting, and the figure of the sea has disappeared. Where's the sea? Long Fei asked. This isn't right. With Dahai's mind, he should be extremely concerned about himself. He has always had doubts about his identity, and since he had used that kind of power without hesitation before, he would definitely have more doubts. What Long Fei didn't expect was that when he came out at this time, there was no trace of the sea. He seemed to have sensed something before, and then left with a sullen face. Mr. De said. He was also looking at Long Fei at this time. To be honest, he still has doubts about Long Fei's identity. He now felt that he should not have come out of the place of origin at all. Talking about the 4 categories of heavens has now become a complete joke. There are 4 people, and I am the one who makes soy sauce. Of course, the Lord of Annihilation was even worse, as Long Fei was directly killed. Moreover, he felt that his situation was extremely dangerous now. Whether it is Long Fei or Dahai, they all have the strength to kill themselves. Especially now, Long Fei's identity is a mystery. It is no longer possible to tell whether he is himself or not. His methods had completely failed in front of Long Fei and were of no use at all. He can digitize any power, but at this time Long Fei has exceeded the limit. His power was no longer able to perform data analysis on Long Fei. To put it simply, Long Fei was beyond the limit of his abilities. Long Fei pondered slightly and looked into the void. Did he discover something? Long Fei muttered to himself. There is only one possibility for Dahai to abandon himself at this time, and that is that he discovered the existence he mentioned. An existence that is truly superior to all living beings and is the source of all things. At the same time, he also thought of the previous reaction of the Lord of Nirvana when he was about to die, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of solemnity in his heart. The Lord of Annihilation must have seen something, so he said those inexplicable words. And what he saw is most likely an existence that is different from this universe. Long Fei thought in his mind. As soon as he thought of this, he looked into nothingness, and without any hesitation, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Mr. De watched Long Fei leave, and the look in his eyes couldn't help but become a little confused, even distress. Damn it, I really lost my temper this time. What, the 4 categories of heaven and earth were promised to me, but now I am the one who makes soy sauce. Mr. Big looked helpless. Let alone the Lord of Annihilation. Long Fei has already been killed. But neither Dahai nor Long Fei were on the same level as him, as if he was not even qualified to serve at the table. If he had known that this was the case, he would rather stay in the world where the data originates. Even if it is false, at least you can sit back and relax. But now, he is like duckweed in the wind, and he might be caught at any time. Die. Especially witnessing the death of the Lord of Annihilation made the sense of crisis in his heart soar. Not to mention that Long Fei and Dahai each have their own secrets, and they might point their fingers at him at some point, simply because the 2 of them had left one after another. He just felt it was inappropriate to leave him here. Does this still treat him as one of our own? But at this moment, figures suddenly came out of the wild world. "Are you with Long Fei?" A voice suddenly appeared. The violent muscles stirred up endless power, as if it could burst the void, and it was full of explosive atmosphere. "He is none other than Long Batian. Now that the power of death that shrouded the prehistoric world has disappeared, he naturally couldn't hold back the loneliness in his heart and walked out. Of course, he was unaware of what happened here before. They were already outsiders when Mr. Big took action to digitize this world. To put it simply, they were no longer qualified to participate in this round at that time. Mr. De was slightly startled when he saw such arrogant Long Batian. But when he looked at Long Batian, the emotion in his heart disappeared instantly. Without it, Long Batian is just the presentation of absolute data in his eyes. Health bar, strength, attributes. In other words, Long Batian is still under his control. Just like that, you dare to show off in front of him? When he thought of this, he looked over. "Are you talking to me?" Long Batian was stunned, and his eyes narrowed slightly. Where did this old man come from? So arrogant? In fact, this can't be blamed on him. Although he has been to the origin of the place, he also caused a turmoil in the origin. But that level is too low, and he is not even qualified to be noticed by Mr. Da. Even for Mr. Da, it was just a few parameters that had changed. Therefore, he didn't care at all about Mr. Da at this time. Of course, so does Mr. Big. He's just a little who can be digitized by me at a glance. How dare he show off in front of me? I can't defeat Long Fei. I can't defeat Dahai. And I can't defeat you? Of course, besides you. Is there anyone else here? Since you have been here, I would like to ask you, have you seen Long Fei? Long Batian is still arrogant. In his opinion, he was just an ordinary old man, and there was no need to care. "See you," Mr. Big responded. Long Batian raised his eyebrows. So the crisis contact here is really related to him? At this moment, Long Batian's expression changed. He has never been inferior to others throughout his life, always fighting and comparing with Long Fei. He was even a little dissatisfied when Dahai told him that he was not even qualified to be a chess piece. But now, there is a gap in my heart. He was powerless with the power he had before. But all crises were resolved in the hands of Long Fei, which already explained a lot of problems. But he was still unwilling to give up and asked, "Did Dahai take action and help Long Fei?" Mr. Big shook his head, his eyes full of pity. Long Batian is a digital image in his eyes. Similarly, Long Batian's emotions will be presented to him in a special way. It is precisely because of this that he feels pitiful. At what level do you dare to compete with Long Fei? Chapter 58:36. Chapter 58:36. Naturally, Long Batian didn't know what Mr. De was thinking. On the contrary, in his eyes, Mr. De was just an old man without any cultivation. Maybe he has something to do with Long Fei, but he doesn't care. After all, Long Fei is Long Fei, and he is him. If he can't defeat Long Fei, why can't he still be arrogant in front of a little old man? At this time, Long Batian saw that Mr. De was silent and even looked at him with an expression of extreme pity, and his heart sank. But instead of being cautious, he was filled with anger. Is Long Batian really dead? Now, anyone dares to show off with him? What do you mean? Who gave you the courage to look at me like this? Long Fei. Long Batian looked at Mr. De, and anger burst out in his eyes. He is now on the edge of time and space, his presence now diminishing. Ever since he confronted Long Fei through the time and space tunnel in the prehistoric world, he felt that he was no longer among the best. Later, he fought against Ying Yi and was ignored. He fought against Long Fei's son and was ignored again. The battle with Qing Ying. No, they didn't fight, but they were ignored all the same. He felt now that people related to Long Fei had begun to become arrogant and clamored in front of him. Can he bear this? He tolerated Long Fei's woman and son, and Ing was strong enough, so he also tolerated it. Now, he can still be ignored by a little-known old man. No, absolutely intolerable. Mr. De frowned slightly, looking at the arrogant Long Batian in front of him. He was speechless. Where did this idiot come from? Don't you know what rank you are in? You just pretended to be in your world, but now you're pretending to him? Yes, in Mr. Da's opinion at this time, Long Batian is a domineering and arrogant person, and he is the kind of person who is already used to being arrogant in his own world and wants to step on everyone he sees. Now, needless to say, this kick has fallen on him. Damn it, I can't compare to the sea. I can't compare to Long Fei. I can't even compare to the dead Lord of Nirvana. But I am a body of variables, and you, a person who can be digitized by me, still dare to show off in front of me. The anger in Mr. Da's heart gradually rose. The next moment, he looked at Long Batian. Have you always been so pretentious? Where does your pride come from? Because you are second, because you are stupid, because you love to pretend? Mr. Da looked at Long Batian coldly, with contempt in his eyes. Long Batian frowned and looked at Mr. Da in disbelief. Are you talking about me? Long Batian asked back, with a look of disbelief on his face. How dare he say such a thing? Now in front of him, shouldn't he be submissive? Shouldn't we lower our posture and beg for mercy? Why did it become like this? But in just a few breaths, his heart was filled with anger, and he said in a deep voice, Do you know what you are talking about? Do you think you can do whatever you want with Long Fei covering you? Mr. Big was stunned. Long Fei covering himself? Immediately, he understood. It turns out that this guy suffered a loss at the hands of Long Fei, and now he wants to make up for it on himself. Dream. Thinking of this, he said, You are right, Long Fei is stronger than me. But I am not a vegetarian. I am the prophet of origin, a variable in the 4 categories of the heavens. What about you? It's just a system. Push up, little Yakuza. Power is just a bunch of numbers in front of me. How dare you question me? Who gave you the courage? Mr. Da's posture was proud, and the caution in his heart disappeared. Yes, he belongs to the 4 categories of the heavens, and is one of the most mysterious beings in the vast universe. Moreover, one is dead now. In other words, apart from Dahai and Long Fei, he is the most awesome now. Long Batian was silent, and suddenly he had a bad feeling in his heart. His intuition told him that he should leave immediately, otherwise trouble might occur. But the moment he had this idea in his mind, a figure suddenly walked out of the prehistoric world. It's DXIN. No, it should be said that he is Long Fei's son. DXIN looked at Long Batian, then at the old gentleman, and said, Go on, I've seen this from beginning to end. There can be no good between you today, and one of you must die. He doesn't mind watching the excitement. He didn't know Mr. Da's identity, but he could feel that the aura on Mr. Da's body was extremely strange. Although he couldn't see through his strength, the fact that he could appear here and witness everything as a bystander already showed that he was extraordinary. 1. Long Batian frowned. Why did he come out and get angry as soon as he came out? Was he trying to disgrace himself? You little bastard, just like you. Long Batian cursed angrily in his heart, secretly thinking that like father, like son, he was just like Long Fei, extremely shameless and annoying to look at. Mr. Da also began to look at him at this time. In just one glance, he could see the shadow of Long Fei. There must be an inextricable relationship between this boy and Long Fei. Whether he can offend him or not, he must not offend him. And it seems that he and these 2 fools are not going to deal with each other. In this case, why not just fulfill his wish and kill these two fools? Mr. Da analyzed in his mind. Immediately, he began to use his own strength to size up DXIN, but he was soon disappointed. Although DXIN has systematic power, there is another power deeper down that conceals his essence, and he cannot be digitized at all. At this moment, he was even more determined in his decision. Immediately, he shifted his gaze and looked at Long Batian. He is right. One of us must die today. I am a big man in the place of origin, and I cannot insult you. Since you said something you shouldn't say, do it what not to do, then there will be a price to pay. Long Batian frowned deeper, but even more cautious. Mr. Da revealed his identity at this time, which made his expression confused. It's not like he hasn't been to the place of origin. However, his level was too low at the beginning and would not attract Mr. Da's attention at all, but this does not mean that he does not know about Mr. Da's existence. When he heard him reveal his identity, he suddenly realized that he had hit a brick wall. But now in front of DXIN, can he give in? Of course not. Thinking of this, he said, "Are you Mr. Da? And now you are with Long Fei? Then do you know who I am with?" Mr. Da was stunned and looked Long Batian up and down. "This is interesting. Are you starting to compete with others now?" "Who are you with?" Mr. Da said, with a hint of amusement in his eyes. He also wanted to see which could take a fancy to such a lowly person. Long Batian heard the contempt in Mr. Da's mouth, and a coldness flashed in his eyes. "Have you ever heard of the Only One? I'm not afraid to tell you. Behind me, there is the Only One. What about you?" "What? Level? Don't say it's you, just even if he is Long Fei, what level is he?" Mr. Big was slightly startled the moment Long Batian spoke. A figure already appeared in Mr. Da's mind. Good, it's the sea. But equally, he also had his own doubts. Why would a person like Dahai fall in love with such a loser? With Dahai's wisdom and scheming, he planned for eternity. Even Long Fei, him, and even more terrifying existences were part of his plan. But why would you let such a simple-minded guy with well-developed limbs follow you? But how did he know that Long Batian was not like this before? It was just because Long Fei's battle gave him such a heavy blow that he was completely ruined now. Chapter 5837. Chapter 5837. At the end of the story, when the story is not in progress, Long Batian is also an extremely awesome character. A presence throughout. It's just that now he has been eliminated. There is no way. He has now gradually become clear about his position. Now, he can only be a witness. Yes, he knew very well that he had been kicked out and was not qualified to enter the game. It was okay before, when I was playing against Long Fei, he was still at the card table. But from the moment he was defeated by Long Fei, he was no longer qualified to enter the game. Although he is still involved in it, he knows that these are just small fights now, and there are only two people who can really control the chessboard. One is the sea, and the other is Long Fei. Even Ing, like him now, is just a witness to the ending, powerless and unable to change it. It is precisely because of this that he is letting himself go now, and wants to find a sense of presence in front of Mr. Big. But I didn't expect that Mr. Da was not conceited at all and actually confronted him for tat. However, at this time, Mr. Da's heart was also filled with waves. Fucked with the sea. Although this is beyond his understanding, he still has to care after all. After all, he is now very clear about his position. Although he is now among the 4 categories of the heavens, he has no sense of existence. The main reason is that both Long Fei and Dahai are too capable. He has no strength and can only stand aside. As for who is stronger, Long Fei or Dahai, he has no idea. But no matter who is stronger, none can compare to him. So at this moment, he was thinking about whether he should be soft to Long Batian. But at this moment, a voice suddenly appeared. Long Batian, listen to what you are saying? Can you, Long Batian, do such a shameless thing? Long Chung, look down on you. Long Chung, who transformed into the Xin, said, but now he has recovered himself. He entered the primitive world because of a bet between Dahai and Long Fei. Now that the Lord of Annihilation has been killed and all causes and effects have dissipated, he naturally no longer has to carry that identity. Long Batian looked at Long Chung, who had recovered himself, and his eyes were filled with anger. There is no way, as Long Fei's descendant. He has too many similarities with Long Fei. Little bastard, it's none of your business here. Don't cause trouble. Long Batian gritted his teeth and said, now he feels annoyed when he sees anything related to Long Fei, especially when a young version of Long Fei stood in front of him. It made him so angry that he wanted to take action directly. But there is no way. It has fallen short. The ancient world has now returned to peace, and all the power of death has disappeared. Although it is not sure whether Long Fei or Dahai won, no matter which one of them it is, he has fallen down a level now. If he takes action against Long Chung now, many people will be dissatisfied. Of course, this is secondary. Now, he has no absolute certainty that he can suppress him. Thinking of this, Long Batian felt even more unhappy. As soon as he thought of this, he directly turned his gaze to Mr. Da. Old guy, come on, tell me, who are you with? Who gave you the courage to be so arrogant in front of me? Long Batian said evilly, pick the persimmons that are soft. He had no choice but to dare to offend anyone related to Long Fei, otherwise there would be no good results. There was a hint of amusement in Mr. Da's eyes. He looked at the furious Long Batian and said softly, I also flew with Long Fei. Long Batian. At this moment, Long Batian felt like he was experiencing a large-scale social death scene. He originally wanted to find an outlet in Mr. Da, but he didn't expect to receive such an answer. I don't believe it. I know Long Fei. There is nothing worthy of mention except trash around him. Although you are also trash, it is obvious that you are worse than anyone I have ever seen. You are trash among trash. Long Fei doesn't raise idle people, so it's impossible for you to follow Long Fei. Long Batian said one after another, it seems that I want to find a reason to convince myself. Mr. Da didn't say anything, just looked at Long Batian. But the eyes can't deceive people. Those eyes are full of ridicule. Waste. This was said by Long Fei and Dahai, and also by you? Okay. I really didn't expect that I would be called useless by Long Fei and people outside the sea. I originally wanted to keep a low profile with you, but I didn't expect that you would end up pretending to be cool with me. In this case, I won't pretend anymore. Mr. Big said, waving casually. Boom. Suddenly, in front of everyone, the original world suddenly changed, as if an invisible screen enveloped the world. Long Batian was stunned. Damn it, I'm done. I met someone who was pretending to be a pig and eating a tiger. Although he didn't know what this power was, how could he, who had carried the system and relied on it to become invincible, not know that this was digitizing the world? There is only one place in this world that can have such a method, and that is the place of origin. There is only one world that can digitize a whole world with a backhand, and that is the legendary gentleman in the original world. After getting this answer, Long Batian was embarrassed. The expression on his face also became extremely wonderful. Without it, his power is the power brought by the system. What a system is the power of countless data. But now he is actually showing off in front of a being who can control data and even wants him to humble himself in front of him. Head, damn it, what did I do? For a moment, Long Batian felt quite speechless, thinking that he must have been in bad luck, and no matter what he did, there would be no good results. Come on, don't you want to kill me? Come and get one, and let me see. Mr. Big sneered. He was also holding back his anger now. Whether in front of Long Fei or in front of the sea, he was always submissive. Now that he had an opportunity to strike hard, he couldn't bear to let it go. Long Batian said nothing with a dark face. On the side, Long Cheng's expression also became a little solemn. He also carried the power of the system, and even transformed because of the power of the system. And now he has become the only strong man who is not inferior to him. So he naturally knew how terrifying Mr. Da's methods were, but he didn't have much fear. After all, he heard the conversation between the two clearly. He is hanging out with Long Fei, so calling himself young master is not too much, right? When he thought of this, his mind became active. That old gentleman, please introduce yourself. My father, Long Fei. Mr. Big frowned. Why are you talking about this now? Do you want to plead for Long Batian? After all, Long Cheng was also someone who had led Das Hang. He could already guess Mr. Da's thoughts just by looking at him, and said quickly, Sir, don't get me wrong. I'm not begging for mercy. I'm just telling you my identity. If nothing else, you can call me young master. Long Cheng said, with a slight smile in his eyes. Chapter 58:38. Chapter 58:38. Mr. Da was stunned and looked at Long Cheng in disbelief. Did he jump out just to show off in front of him? Little Lord, he said this as if he was Long Fei's lackey. No, he's not. He doesn't admit it. On the side, Long Batian's eyes were filled with anger. He naturally knew what Long Cheng meant when he said this, just to make him feel disgusted. If Mr. Da really calls him young master, then this guy will definitely have to show off in front of him. When he thought of this, he couldn't help but say, Little bastard, you are more shameless than your father. You really think you've got me, right? Long Batian's eyes were red, feeling that the world was against him. Long Cheng didn't care. Long Batian, have you not seen your position clearly yet? Do you think you are still qualified to say such things now? Do you want to see who you are facing? I, Long Cheng, the son of Long Fei. Long Cheng was very proud, especially knowing that his father was on the same level as Long Batian's backer. The arrogance in his heart could not be suppressed. I have no choice. I have an invincible father. Is there anything I can do? If Long Fei knew what Long Cheng was thinking at this time, he would definitely throw him away with a big blow. Who gave birth to it? Why do you like to show off so much? Forget it. Just pretend to be cool. You have no strength, so you still use your own name to show off. Mr. Da was silent at this time, but he understood. This Long Cheng is a show-off. He may have the ability, but he can't suppress Long Batian. Now he just wants to use himself to give Long Batian a show of strength. But Mr. Big was not prepared to obey. Joke. After all, he is one of the 4 categories in the heavens. Logically speaking, he is on par with Long Fei and Dahai, but those 2 people are too perverted, and he has no sense of existence in front of them. But you can't really be a dog. Still, young master, I don't hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. Do you want to save face? When he thought of this, he said, Shut up. Long Fei is Long Fei, and you are you. Besides, Long Fei and I are in a cooperative relationship, and I am not his lackey. Long Cheng was stunned. This result was something he had never thought of. Are you so disrespectful? Didn't you agree to hang out with your father? Now what does this mean? Is he also a rebel? Old sir, you heard me clearly. I am Long Fei's son. Long Cheng refused to give up and continued. Mr. Doe ignored it and snorted, "I know you have the blood of Long Fei, but let me say it again, I have a cooperative relationship with him. I am not his lackey." Long Cheng's face gradually stiffened, not out of anger, but out of embarrassment. "I originally wanted to use Mr. De to show off, but I didn't expect it would be such a result. Ahem, old man, don't be angry, I'm just joking." As we all know, Long Cheng, am today not only because of my parents, but also not because of my background. I am doing it step by step. Long Cheng changed the subject and wanted to forcefully regain his respect. But before he finished speaking, he was directly interrupted by Long Batian. "Step by step, I relied on the system provided by Dahai to achieve what I am today." The contempt in Long Batian's eyes was even greater. Originally, he was a little worried. If Mr. De really dared to call Long Cheng a young master, then he would not be able to lose face today. But after listening to Mr. Da's answer, he suddenly felt that the old man was kind-hearted and cute. Long Cheng's face darkened. "Shut up. You were born countless generations earlier than my father. Tell me about you. You were a powerful figure in the world back then. You couldn't beat my father, and you couldn't us. Now, you can just show off in front of an old gentleman. What else do you have?" Face speaks. Long Cheng will naturally not stand guard. "No, he can't pretend." Mr. De interrupted. "I don't care what he does in front of others, but if he shows off in front of me, I can crush him to death with one hand." Mr. Big said coldly. Long Batian's face was as gloomy as water. "This is not saving any face at all. It is rubbing your own face on the ground." But soon, the gloom in his heart was swept away, and Mr. De continued to say, "The same goes for you. Your strength is also created by the system. If I want to, I can format your strength with just one thought. Without the system, you don't have the right to show off in front of me." At this moment, Long Batian looked at Long Cheng, who looked as if he had eaten coptis, and his heart suddenly felt happy. "It's just embarrassing. It doesn't matter. There are still people with me." Long Cheng also fell silent now. He felt that he couldn't accept these words. He really wanted to say something. "Didn't you just follow my dad? Then we are our own people. It's hard for me to do this." Of course, Long Fei didn't know all this. Of course, if you knew it, you wouldn't care. At this time, he had followed the breath of the sea to the end of the endless void. For their level, it only takes a moment to cross the void, and the endless time and space are all under his thoughts. With one thought of eternity, they can transcend immortality, travel across time and space, and reach any point in this void. Of course, areas outside this original world are not included. After all, the original world is a core. Compared with this, any other world can be said to be just a small world, not on the same level and dimension. If they leave the original world, there will be no obstacles in other regions, and they will arrive in a matter of seconds. But that means nothing to Long Fei. After all, every time verification appears, please do not use incognito mode. Unexpectedly, the problems he is facing now are all in this core world. Dahai's figure was right in front, looking at a looming portal at the end of the void, his eyes solemn as never before. "He came," said the sea softly. "Who?" Long Fei asked. He already had a guess in his mind, but he still couldn't believe it. The one who can make Dahai show such an expression must be someone outside the four categories of the heavens, and one who is qualified to occupy the first class. It's just that he expected that this kind of existence would not show up so easily. After all, he and Dahai also planned to hunt this existence in their plan. But now that he has appeared, doesn't this mean that their previous plan has been aborted? Who are you talking about? The one above, the only. Dahai said. Long Fei was silent and thoughtful. Since Dahai said this, he would naturally not doubt it. Although he was a little surprised, Dahai would not deceive himself on such a matter. What should we do? If he appears, does that mean that your previous plan has gone bankrupt? Long Fei said. Dahai suddenly turned around and looked at Long Fei with a flash of disgust in his eyes. Can you be a human being and start scheming against me before we even start? What do you mean by my plan? You know our plan. Dahai looked helpless and was very unhappy with Long Fei's reaction. How did he manage to remove himself so naturally? When would Long Fei, with his thick eyebrows and big eyes, be able to say such shameless words? Long Fei responded with a speechless look. Sure enough, the sea is the sea after all, and it always counts itself in the calculation. Don't talk nonsense. This has nothing to do with me. It's clearly your own plan. Don't forget, my parents are in a hostile relationship now. It's impossible for me to join forces with you. Long Fei vowed. Chapter 58:39. Chapter 58:39. It is impossible to admit. Dahai has been plotting against that existence for who knows how many years. He had only known about such an existence before. Dahai wanted to lure him in with just one word, but Long Fei refused. Dahai curled his lips as if he didn't expect Long Fei to say such shameless words, and immediately said, "You are so shameless. Do you think you can get out now? Don't forget, you are the cause of the disaster. It's useless even if you pull yourself out now. That person is not a fool. All he cares about is how to start the apocalypse tribulation. You will still not be spared by then." There was already a bit of anger in the sound of the sea. It seems that he is very unhappy being stabbed in the back by Long Fei now. Don't talk nonsense. Are you saying that I am the cause of calamity? Don't forget why we fought before. Now the theory of the 4 types of heavens has been self-defeated, so it is still uncertain who is the cause of calamity. Long Fei responded with a fighting spirit in his eyes, as if he wanted to have another showdown with Dahai. The sea fell silent without saying a word. After a moment, a flash of anger flashed. Okay, in that case, I don't care. He can't kill me anyway. Although I haven't reached that step. I have already stepped in with half a foot, and I can see my true self. I'll see how you die, Dahai said, and walked away. In a blink of an eye, the figure of the sea disappeared. Snort! Long Fei followed closely behind and disappeared into a stream of light. But they didn't know that just after the 2 figures disappeared, the portal that disappeared at the end suddenly appeared again. And then a voice came from it. 2 little bastards, they still want to plot against me. An unknown space. The figures of Long Fei and Dahai stood opposite each other. Hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. BR, do you think you can deceive me? Dahai asked. Yes, the 2 of them were naturally acting before. After all, they have been working together for so long, and they can know what to do next without even looking at each other. Just a few clues. I never thought of lying to him. If he can believe this clumsy trick, I'm afraid you won't have to scheme for so long. Long Fei responded. He knew very well that from the moment the sea appeared in his life, he was probably doing it for the apocalypse. As for the apocalypse tribulation, the final source has now been determined, which is the existence outside this origin, the existence above the 4 categories of the heavens in the mouth of the sea. This kind of existence made Dahai unable to do anything about his calculations for so long, so how could he believe that the 2 of them had broken up just because of his words? Then, what's the point of doing this? Dahai asked. He has been planning for eternity, but now he feels a little bit incomprehensible to Long Fei. It's very simple. I'm just not going to mess with you anymore. You have controlled my whole life, and now that I have finally risen, do you think I am still willing to be controlled by you? Long Fei said, and the aura escaped from his body. Dahai's expression changed. It has to be said that Long Fei's current strength is second only to him. Even if there is a gap, it won't be too big. In other words, Long Fei now has the qualifications to compete with him. See, you said you don't care. Do you think I'm not qualified to give up? It's just the apocalypse tribulation. If you can jump out, I can jump out too. If it doesn't work, I will just jump out with my wife and children and wait for the apocalypse tribulation. I'll come out after it's over. I will still be invincible by then. Long Fei said with a lazy look on his face, as if he didn't care about anything anymore. Crap, Long Fei, I misjudged you. I thought you were a real man and would definitely choose to fight to the end. I gave in just thinking about you. Dahai looked angry, and there was even murderous intent in his eyes. Long Fei still looked indifferent. There's no shame in surviving. If you force yourself to do things you know you can't change, that's nothing. That's self-humiliation. Besides, I don't think I'm giving in. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean I can't do it. I'm going to live in seclusion for an era, and when the next era of apocalypse comes out, I'll plan another era. When the time comes, I'll go and defeat the one you're talking about. As Long Fei spoke, his eyes gradually became sparkling. It was as if he was already imagining the scene he was talking about. Dahai's expression became even worse. Wasn't this a slap in the face? You think you can do things that I can't even do? Dahai scolded angrily. Of course. Long Fei, will definitely do whatever I want to do. Long Fei continued with a cold look in his eyes. Okay, in that case, let me see you. You want to jump out with your people, but as long as I'm here, I won't let you succeed. After Dahai finished speaking, the world in front of him suddenly collapsed, and his figure also disappeared at this moment. Only Long Fei was left in the void again. Dahai, please don't take action against my people, otherwise everyone will really fall out. Long Fei whispered to himself, with a cold light shining in his eyes. Immediately, his figure flashed past, disappeared in the blink of an eye, and just after the two figures disappeared, a portal quietly appeared in the sky again. Hashtag every time verification appears, please do not use incognito mode. They pretended that they had murderous intentions, but they didn't start a fight. I don't believe it. I didn't realize that there were two brainless people in this reincarnation, and they acted like infernal affairs with me. It's childish. A voice slowly drifted down, and then disappeared. At this moment, Long Fei's figure appeared in front of a portal flashing with green light. Come out and chat. Long Fei said softly. The next moment, a figure walked out of the portal. Another dragon flies. However, in order to distinguish Long Fei, this person wore a red robe, which was as alluring as blood. How about it? Is my power easy to use? Now, you find that you are useless. Without my power, you can't even fight the Lord of Annihilation to death, let alone fight the sea. By then, your women will be dead. If I die in front of you, why do you insist on giving me any strength? Red-robed Long Fei said, his eyes full of disdain, as if he looked down on Long Fei extremely. Long Fei's expression remained unchanged. When I fought with Dahai, I didn't use your power. To be honest, your power is just like that, just the icing on the cake. Tough talk. If you were really as relaxed as you said, you wouldn't be here. Red-robed Long Fei sneered, and there was a hint of sarcasm in his empty eyes. Stop talking nonsense. No matter how much you talk, it can't change the ending that you can't get out of. You can only show off when I lose myself. So being tough is useless. Long Fei said, also not taking the other party seriously. Red-robed Long Fei's pupils shrank, hatred and anger intertwined. You bastard, what do you mean? Do you want to break the contract? Long Fei shook his head. It's not like breaking the contract. I just want to change the way. Chapter 5840. Chapter 5840. The red-robed Long Fei looked unkind and looked at Long Fei with doubt in his eyes. I don't believe a word of your words right now. You said that after you kill the Lord of Nirvana, I will go out and you go in. The two of us can come one day at a time. But now you want to change again. Who do you think I am? The red-robed Long Fei questioned Long Fei. His face was cold, as if he would fall out at any time. Don't you know who you are? You are just the cause of the calamity. If I hadn't been willing to accept the calamity, you wouldn't have existed at all. Long Fei said softly. Good. Long Fei already knew more. He had concealed this before, including the battle with Dahai or the communication with Mr. Big. Of course, it's not that Long Fei is afraid of causing their dissatisfaction, but that Long Fei is confident in suppressing everything. Even with this calamity, Long Fei has absolute confidence. The red-robed Long Fei's eyes suddenly turned scarlet, and he stared at Long Fei. You don't have to look at me with such hateful eyes. You don't dare to kill me. You exist because of me. If something happens to me, you won't stay in this world. But I am still willing to give you a chance. Long Fei said, suddenly raising his head and looking at Hong Pao himself. I can enter this door and exchange your existence in this world. The red-robed Long Fei was stunned. He never expected that Long Fei would make such a decision. He thought Long Fei was going to expel him and fall into darkness forever. Unexpectedly, Long Fei gave a completely opposite answer. What do you mean? Haven't you been guarding against me? Why is this happening now? Red-robed Long Fei asked, although he had always longed for this, but now that Long Fei actually said this answer, he felt that it was extremely unreal. Literally. But there are some things that require your cooperation. Long Fei said, describing the drama between himself and Dahai. Hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. Read it again. So, do you want to fake it? Just leave and ignore everything? But you have to know that I can't bear this apocalypse for you. Even after I go out, I will try my best to promote the apocalypse. Of course, maybe I can do this without having to do anything. After all, I am the cause of the disaster. Red-robed Long Fei said. Long Fei nodded. I know, so I won't stop you at this point. Just do whatever you want. But there is one thing: you are not allowed to touch my woman. Even if you are from the same origin as me, you only appeared because of me. But you can't do that either. Long Fei spoke righteously. He absolutely cannot accept others putting hats on him, even if it is another self. Don't worry, I'm not interested in women. I love destruction. Red-robed Long Fei said. But soon he asked again, but I still don't understand why you suddenly made such a decision. Tired. Long Fei responded. Red-robed Long Fei's expression froze. What is this? Are you even too lazy to be perfunctory? Don't be so surprised. I can obviously ignore you, but now I find a reason to deal with you. Just be satisfied. Long Fei said, and walked forward step by step. Soon, he came to the red-robed Long Fei. As for what I am doing, you don't have to guess. Now you can go out. Long Fei was too lazy to explain and didn't want to waste more time. As soon as he finished speaking, he pushed and threw the red robe directly out. The next moment, he was the only one left in this space. But of course, here, it's top secret. No matter how big, neither the sea nor the one that is above all can come in. Because this is the world that belongs to Long Fei's body, exists in nothingness, and belongs only to Long Fei. I hope my guess is right. Although I don't know why this tribulation body appears, this door has the same aura as the door where the existence appeared. If my bet is right, I may be able to witness another world. A world of only one. Long Fei muttered to himself, and a look of joy gradually appeared in his eyes. He has been taking risks along the way, but this time it is a big gamble. If he loses the gamble, he will die and there will be no chance of recovery. But if the bet wins, then everything will change because of yourself. Even things that the sea cannot do will be created by your own hands. Yes, the reason why he went to great lengths to show off to that being twice was just to feint his shot. He never expected the other party to believe it. He just wanted to create an illusion and launch his plan at this moment. He just wanted to enter the door and see the world behind it. And this world is what he guessed was another existence, a world that existed above everything else. This is his way to break the situation. I hope you don't disappoint me. As Long Fei spoke, his eyes gradually became firm, and then his figure flashed, and he stepped into the portal. In a world of stars and rivers of indescribable beauty, Long Fei's figure gradually appeared. At this moment, Long Fei was a little stunned. Is this the world behind that door? It seems a little different from what I thought. Long Fei was a little depressed. He thought that such a world must be extremely dangerous, but now that he has come here, he feels hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. I feel like I'm thinking too much. This was completely opposite to what he had imagined. Wherever there is any danger, it would not be an exaggeration to describe it as a fairyland on Earth. At this moment, Long Fei actually had some doubts and felt that he had guessed wrong. Ding! Congratulations to the players for coming to the real world. The system functions have been reshaped. At this moment, a long-lost voice suddenly appeared in his mind. Long Fei was stunned. The uneasiness in my heart became stronger and stronger. Wrong. It must be wrong. As soon as this thing appeared, Long Fei felt a sense of despair in his heart. With his strength, the system is completely useless, and there is no way it can help him anymore. But now the system has recovered. What does this mean? Either his own cultivation has disappeared, and everything needs to be started again, or the level of existence in this world is too low, making the system feel that he is good again. Upon thinking of this, Long Fei quickly began to check himself. But after this glance, Long Fei became even more depressed. His cultivation is still there, and he is still invincible. System, did you make a mistake? My cultivation is still there. Are you sure your reinvention will work? Long Fei tried to ask. This scene was so weird that Long Fei felt that everything had become confusing again. However, the system did not respond at this time, and only a cold countdown appeared in Long Fei's sea of consciousness. This countdown is naturally the countdown to the time for system reconstruction. A full 24 hours. Long Fei forced himself to calm down. No matter why this scene happened, it was unusual. But it's useless to worry. All he can do now is wait. When the system recovers, there may be an answer by then. Chapter 58:41. Chapter 58:40. One the day flies by. This day has been a bit torturous for Long Fei. Now everything is unclear. There are too many doubts floating in Long Fei's mind, making Long Fei unable to calm down at all. So Long Fei almost stared at the system countdown. There is only 1 minute left. It's so weird. I don't know what went wrong. Long Fei muttered to himself, and then silently counted the time in his heart beating faster as the system changed. In fact, this is no wonder Long Fei, from his perspective, his current experience also makes him feel horrible. You must know that at this time, one thing has affected the whole body. If there is the slightest mistake, Not only will he die, but his woman, son, everything related to him, and even the world he experiences will be destroyed. The smoke disappeared and was annihilated under the catastrophe of the apocalypse. Even if he was unable to change, Long Fei didn't want to just be desolate in this world without any sense of participation. For a moment, Long Fei regretted a little and felt that he had made a wrong decision. I should have known better beforehand, that I shouldn't have gone crazy. There might still be a chance to join forces with Dahai, but now it's no longer possible. Barbecue, Long Fei's heart became increasingly bitter. Ding! The system reconstruction is about to be successful. Countdown, 9-inch countdown. 8. The sound of the system appeared again, and Long Fei became nervous. His eyes were fixed on the system panel. Finally, time cleared. Ding! Congratulations, players. The system remodeling has been completed. The current system is a self-derived version. The triggering reason is unknown. Players themselves will discover the name. True Invincible system. Long Fei was silent as he listened to the sound coming into his ears. Trigger unknown. Just a few words made Long Fei feel terrified. To put it simply, the reason why the system can be reshaped today must be because of external conditions. But it just so happens that even the system itself doesn't know this condition. As for the name, Long Fei no longer cares. Hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. Anyway, along the way, the system has been called all kinds of strange names. System. Continue talking. What are the current system functions? What are the tasks? There was a bit of urgency in Long Fei's voice, and he was very concerned. Ding! Don't worry. Although the system is being reshaped now, it is still analyzing the current world. The system voice responded. The sound is extremely familiar. It still has the same taste, the same recipe, and even the service intelligence of the system has not changed. For Long Fei, this may be the only place where he can still feel a little comfort. Ding! The system analysis is completed. The world the player is currently in is the real world. Long Fei frowned. Real world. System. Does this mean that the world I experienced before was fake? Long Fei couldn't help but ask. What the system said is very interesting. The definition of true and false is no longer distinguishable in Long Fei's cognition. It seems that as the cultivation level increases, one jumps out of a circle again and again. Looking back, it seems that the previous world is full of traces of manual operations. Whether it is the power of the system or the cultivation of civilization, it seems that when the world reaches its extreme, it will break the world. Well now, a real world appeared directly, and Long Fei couldn't help but have this idea. Ding! Players can make their own judgment. The system cannot answer any questions for players right now. Long Fei was silent, his expression stern. Really? Still the same dog. As before, I will blame myself for everything. As for answering my questions in advance, that's simply impossible. For a moment, some of the excitement that the system's recovery brought to Long Fei disappeared. It's okay not to have such a system. Ding! The purpose of this system reshaping is to help the host ascend to the true realm. There is only one mission, to see the true self. The system ignored Long Fei and continued to beep. Long Fei's eyes moved. True state, the realm after the only one. In other words, it is the one after the only one. Is the true self the one? Long Fei muttered to himself. Long Fei has no concept of this realm. This realm is completely unfamiliar. There is no such explanation in the known power system, because no one has ever reached this level. Even if Dahai is so awesome, he is still not close to the top. As for him, he is worse than the sea, so naturally he cannot perceive this realm. Therefore, Long Fei was happy when he heard this prompt from the system. I no longer dislike the old operation of the system. Since the goal is to help myself get there, does that mean that I can get there before the sea? Hiss. Long Fei couldn't help but take a breath, and became excited when he thought of this possibility. If one day I return to my true state and appear in front of the sea, I don't know what the expression of the sea will be. At the thought of this possibility, Long Fei felt his blood begin to boil. Oh shit. Done. Apart from anything else, Dahai has manipulated him as a chess piece all his life. Even though it was him who brought him to where he is now step by step, Long Fei is still unhappy. But now he has not reached this state yet. If he can reach this state before him, the picture will be very beautiful. System, don't waste time, just talk about the mission. Long Fei couldn't wait. What mission? System voice hashtag. Every time verification appears, please do not use incognito mode. Voice response. Long Fei. Long Fei was stunned. There is nothing to say. You think you are very humorous? Long Fei asked. He suspected that the system was intentional. He said before that there was only one mission, to see the true self. Now that he is denying it, why does he think he is a dragon? Ding! Does the player have some misunderstanding about the system? Haven't I already told you the mission? Meet the real me. The system responds. That's it? Where's the reward? Where's the clue? Just one sentence. How do I do it? Long Fei's face turned dark. Now he understands that he thought of some things too early. He originally had high expectations for the system, but now it seems that he was naive. He's still himself, and even more doggy than before. There used to be an explanation, but now I don't even bother to explain it. Ding, do you have any misunderstandings about yourself? What do you think I can give you with your current realm and strength? Although I don't know how I was activated and evolved, but now I can tell you yes, that's all. The system explained. In other words, the purpose of your appearance is to tell me where this place is. And that's it? Long Fei's voice was a little depressed. I think this is enough. It's not like you don't know your current state. The power of the system is completely useless to you. It's incredible that it can evolve now and give you a little hint. There was some helplessness in the system's voice. Long Fei also fell silent. Frankly, there is nothing wrong with the system saying this now. After all, the existence of the system was no longer a help to him before. Even because of the robbery, the two almost parted ways. Then what are you doing now? Long Fei continued to ask. Chapter 5842. Chapter 5842. This is something Long Fei doesn't understand. The system itself also said that he is useless now and has no use in improving Long Fei's strength. Even any reward is meaningless to Long Fei. I don't know. Anyway, after entering this world, a kind of power was poured into the system data. It seemed that something changed, and the system evolved. The system responded. In Long Fei's eyes, he must have thought of what he said when the system first woke up, that it was triggered by unknown reasons. Is it possible to find this kind of power? Long Fei asked. He perceived the crux of the problem and felt that this was an important factor. Maybe if I can figure out the reason for the reshaping of the system, I can find the possibility of breaking through to the real realm. It's possible, and it's certain that this world must be extremely weird. I analyzed this world before, and the only news I could get was a truth. And what this truth means may not just be the world itself, but may represent a kind of power. The system explained. Long Fei was slightly silent, but he still agreed with the system. After all he has experienced, he naturally refuses to accept that the world he once lived in is false. Therefore, my heart is naturally more inclined to the system's statement at this time. In other words, the most urgent task is to find a way to break the situation and find out what power makes the system upgrade again. With this in mind, Long Fei looked at the world in front of him. His face also became serious. Even after clarifying the logic, Long Fei still didn't know how to start. He knows nothing about this world. Moreover, this world was completely different from the world he had experienced before. Here he could not feel any fluctuations in aura, let alone living beings, not even spiritual energy. In addition, everything that comes into view here is extremely dreamy. There are vast expanses of flowing clouds hanging in the sky. There are low stars emitting starlight. There are countless high hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. Mountains are like the backbone of the sky. All of this is extremely unbelievable. Even if I travel across countless worlds, I have never seen such a scene. What kind of world is this? What does truth mean? Long Fei muttered to himself. He felt that he had made an incredible choice, and there was an inexplicable feeling in his heart that he was close to the answer when he entered this portal. Moreover, he believed that all of this must be related to himself. After all, the other self that appeared due to the tribulation came out of here. Perhaps we can start from this aspect. The cause of the disaster must appear here. Long Fei thought. His eyes gradually became firm. The sky above the ancient world. The sea returns. But Dahai's face didn't look good at this time. Until now, he was still wondering what Long Fei meant. Will Long Fei fall out with him? Obviously not. But what Long Fei did before made Dahai a little confused. His actions were meaningless. If it weren't for the tacit understanding between the two, he wouldn't even know how to cooperate. What is Long Fei's intention? I don't believe it. He can't feel that existence. Dahai said thoughtfully, although the realm of the sea was only a hair away from that, it was still half a step into it. Not a single fluctuation in the void could hide from his perception. Naturally, he knew that the conversation between him and Long Fei could not hide from that person, and he also cooperated very well, playing with Long Fei Biao. Of course, he also knew very well that he could not deceive the other party at all. His intuition told him that Long Fei must have his own plan, otherwise he would not do such a meaningless thing. No matter what, I have to make some preparations. It seems that I have to enter the next realm, otherwise this gap is really not enough. Dahai thought and suppressed his thoughts, but at this moment his eyebrows moved. A figure appeared in front of him. It was Long Fei. Long Feiping walked directly in front of the sea as if there was no one there, as if it was a fake show. Dahai. Damn it. It's time to make a career. For a moment, Dahai was also a little confused. He looked at Long Fei's disappearing back with deep eyes. However, after thinking for a while, Dahai still followed Long Fei's footsteps. Soon, the two of them arrived at the prehistoric world. At this time, the deadlock here is still continuing, but unlike before, now is Mr. Big's highlight moment. Both Long Batian and Long Chung were directly digitized by Mr. Da, and their power was imprisoned. They didn't even have a chance to struggle in front of Mr. Da. Long Batian looked annoyed. This wave of blood loss. He wondered if he had been eliminated by history and crushed into dregs by the wheels of the times. It seemed that he was no longer in a position to show off, and anyone who came out could kill him. At this moment, all the strength in his body was restrained, and he could only lie down in front of Mr. Big. Soft. It was also Mr. Da who had no intention of humiliating him, otherwise he might not even be qualified to lie down. Gotta kneel. The only thing that made him feel relieved was that now Long Chung was not much better than him, lying opposite him. At this time, Long Chung felt hopeless. Hashtag every time verification appears. Please do not use incognito mode. What did he do wrong? He just wanted to use Long Fei to show off. Was he wrong? Come on, come on. Do you really think anyone can jump in front of me? With all due respect, that means Long Fei and Dahai are out of the system. Otherwise, they would have to lie down in front of me. Mr. Big looked mocking. Although he is now on the verge of elimination, he is no longer qualified to participate in this game. The real core players only belong to Long Fei and Dahai. But he hasn't been eliminated yet. Now, these two people who have been eliminated dare to have a sense of presence in front of him. Does this mean you don't regard him as a human being? Although he would not kill someone, it was inevitable to take action to suppress him, so as to eliminate the hatred in his heart. But he didn't notice at all that the two figures had returned in the void at this time. Dahai just frowned slightly. He has been unhappy with Mr. Big for a long time. The previous plan is about to reach the final step. Only the Lord of Nirvana can collapse the prehistoric world and let Long Fei witness the death of the people he cares about under Nirvana. This will inevitably induce Long Fei's disaster, because if the calamity breaks out, the real apocalyptic calamity may come. And in his plan, with his current strength, he was enough to suppress Long Fei. Unfortunately, everything has changed. The variable itself is this big man. You bitch, you ruined my life, and now you dare to humiliate my people? Displeasure flashed in Dahai's eyes. Then he waved his hand casually. Boom. The invisible power that blessed Long Batian disappeared directly. Mr. Do was stunned and immediately guessed that Dahai was back. Without any hesitation, he turned around and said, I know you are in a hurry, so please don't be in a hurry. Everyone is in the fourth category, although you have to be stronger. But I think you still have to give me some face. You're tuning in to the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.